And she's still bitching about oppressors. You've never been oppressed in your goddamn life, you bitch.
Does Congress even matter?
Revenge. That's what I want.
Woke doctors.
Cancel the Bible.
Wokenize.
Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, globalism, Zelenskyism.
Media, I want you to suck on this.
And we got a number one alpha man in Donald J. Trump.
Clearly says dog food topper. And I'm going to put this in my mouth right now. Oh, it tastes like meat?
By repealing the 19th Amendment, just for the record, it's not just trying to take away a female vote, but it's trying to say, no, there's a family.
Whoa, what is happening here right now?
A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Talk about it.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
And this is what's happening in our country.
What the fuck did you say?
This is the time of the episode we would like to remind you to go to vote.org if you are a citizen of the United States and make sure you are registered to vote in your state. Right now, voter rolls are being purged across the country. It doesn't hurt to double check to make sure that you're registered to vote for this upcoming presidential election and every other race on the ballot.
Boom.
We are so proud of you.
I don't know. Entertain the audience. I got filler. I'll be right back, like in 20 seconds.
Great time for me to practice my Type 5. You guys ever notice what's the deal with all these pronouns these days, you know? Crazy. Back in my day, we just kind of pointed at each other. Is that anything, chat? Is that something? How's the pillar of garbage right-wing pivot looking? Think there's money in it? Nah, maybe not. Well, if everyone else is gone, you know, hey, I can do some shilling.
What happened?
Everyone went. I'm just filling time. I'm just filling air.
All right, you assholes.
A woman is an adult human person that has a desire to be in accordance with a particular set of social and cultural norms that are typically associated with the female sex. Define a man.
You're looking at one, XY chromosomes in a
Okay, but does God the Father have XY chromosomes?
Okay.
Prior to incarnation? A man is someone with XY chromosomes, but he doesn't have XY chromosomes, yet he's still a man, and he still uses preferred pronouns?
Actually, in the original Hebrew, Adonai, do you know what Adonai is? It's the Hebrew word for God. It's actually genderless.
Wrong.
But in the scriptures, they use he, right? And they use the masculine. Jesus Christ came to earth as a man, not as a woman.
But God the Father is a man, right? Because all fathers are men.
Well, first of all, there's a trinity. So God the Father is neither man nor woman. He is omniscient, omnipotent. He is all being on top.
So why do you use he?
Well, I did not. The scriptures do. You could use woman. You could say her. Again, because you have to make a choice, either him or her in the original scriptures.
Some fathers aren't men and boys?
So
some fathers are not men and boys. Not men or boys.
I'm sorry.
Some fathers are not male.
Of course they are.
Wait, so God the Father's a male?
Hold on, God the Father. So where do we get God the Father from? What Greek word?
From your scripture. Because he's not a man. You know he's not a man under your worldview, yet you still use his preferred pronouns. You still call him a man.
Christ is a man.
You don't do that with trans people because you're transphobic. That's why.
Okay, got it. But Christ is a man.
Before incarnation, he's not.
The Trinity, okay?
Before incarnation, there's no there's no XY chromosomes, there's no small gametes.
Hold on a second. Let's think about it. Well,
what biology does your God have?
Well, the one of Christ our Lord.
No, I meant before incarnation.
Well, to be honest, I don't quite know, and I don't think the scriptures are.
So you don't know what a man is?
Well,
you can't define what a man is?
It's a little opaque. Again, you're looking at a man.
But your video, the largest video on TikTok is, what is a woman, 20 million views? You don't know what a man is under your own worldview?
I said you're looking at a man, right?
Wait, but God the Father doesn't meet that criteria.
Am I looking at a man?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Just making
a man that's beating you in a debate right now.
Okay, that's fine.
I have a concept of a plan.
Why in Springfield they're eating the dogs, the people that came in here. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets, the people that live here.
Yeah! Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens in prison! I got involved with the Taliban. And then I read that she was black. Either way, it's okay with me. Execution after birth. It's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. And I told Abdul Don't do it! Our country is going to hell. Thank you.
And this is, you can take this to the fucking bank, man. Don't trust them. Somebody self-identifies as a libertarian, or they just kind of like generally have that set of views about things. Don't fucking trust them, because the only thing they believe in is not getting caught. Okay, that's it. No negative consequences on them for any of the choices and actions that they make. They think that if you can rationalize something, if you can justify it in your head, and then you can do it, you can execute it without consequence, without a negative consequence on them, you're basically a god made flesh, and nobody can begrudge you. And that is a shitty way to live life.
Any of you incels, QAnon, 4chan, Snyder Cut motherfuckers want to get out of line now? Anybody? Anything so?
People consuming anything that they're told to consume. So I am the villain, because I've made myself one.
I'm about to make a name for myself here.
You look lonely.
Nice fucking model! I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds!
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
Drink it in. Absorb it. Let it wash over you.
What the fuck? But I didn't know what the fuck was happening because I've barely been sleeping since my wife got flipped upside down by a swing dancer at a wedding. Well, that's gonna kill me. That's real. That lives with us on Earth. I thought I was gonna get eaten.
I understand your frustration.
You're relieved you don't have to go to work because you thought you were gonna get eaten? What the fuck is this?
We don't know that guy.
We thought we did.
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
When I was a kid, it was too much supper. Now it's comic books.
I'll burn them tomorrow.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying? Fear or the frightened?
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Hello, everyone. Seeing some shenanigans, some bullshittery up in the chat here. But it's not by this person, Morgan.
No, it's me. It's that Morgan.
You're not doing the bullshittery in chat. Let's see. I don't believe this guy is either. Bob.
Hey, that's a.
I may be responsible for some of the bullshittery.
No. Because what is this? So just because someone took a word and weaponized, you let it go. What? Okay. So what happened to taking back? Whoever said that was a goal? That's impossible.
I don't want it back.
We don't want it.
They can have it.
We'd rather use more than just one word to lump entire concepts of intersectionality and everything, equity, all underneath one little fucking word that doesn't even convey that remotely. Yeah.
So like, because the discussion of we're talking about like taking back the term libertarian from the fucking neo-Nazis, and it's just like I
don't think so.
There's so many better fights to pick.
Yep.
That I'll just pick that fight, and like I don't need to pick that fight with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can,
as a classical libertarian, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
AKA a socialist.
Right.
Which is what libertarian used to mean.
Yeah.
It used to be synonymous. But thanks to some conservative bullshittery in America, starting
I mean,
years
are
ago,
you asking?
it
We don't
started
believe
to
we don't
diverge.
believe political violence on either of these people is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Or is that a rhetorical question aimed at the Libertarian Party of New
I
Hampshire?
guess so. Yeah, maybe so. I feel like Ryan Porter's been here before, but he might have changed his picture. So
Well, he can.
anyway, yeah. So as we've learned, once we already had the show ready to go, there's been some sort of attempt or close, maybe an almost attempt or something. I don't know what the fuck's going on Trump again.
Yep. So
yeah.
So
take it away, Morgan.
There's not much to say.
There's
Well,
not
all
much
we
to
know
say,
is there was an incident, and initially it was claimed to be an assassination attempt, but maybe it wasn't. We don't know. The story is changing quickly, and it's hard to get any details nailed down.
So what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next hour and a half just speculating wildly.
Right. Or no, because that's not that the point of this show is the opposite of that.
We're going to not do that. This is
not do that. So here's what we know.
Hypoclip might get a hold of us if we did that.
Yeah, and they would be right to roast us.
Yeah.
So what we know is that there was a man who was arrested by the Secret Service. He had a gun.
That's the only facts that have been confirmed, or what?
Someone fired some shots. That's all. That's the only thing the stories agree on. Everything else is still up in the air, and the FBI is investigating it as a potential assassination attempt. Those are the facts we have. Everything else is still speculation, and so
I can actually add. I'm going to do one speculation that I believe will be a fact before long. It's probably already happened. It's already a fact, probably. That's all we know, that they're investigating it as an attempt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chuds are going to say it was an attempt.
Oh, yeah, they already have.
100%.
Already have.
Yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene has already tweeted through her feelings about it and said that they have a conspiracy to kill Trump.
Sure.
She's so butthurt that Trump is fucking Laura Loomer now.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad, man. Like these, I mean, in fact, like Laura Loomer makes Marjorie Taylor Greene look kind of sane. It's bizarre,
So when is Melania gonna flip on these people?
She just put out something saying like that seemed to be in coordination for the campaign or something. So I think she's like fine still being part of it because she, gets the financial benefits, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't seem to want to make any public appearances or anything.
No, I would. I'm a petty bitch, so I would be like, no, we're gonna burn this down.
Yeah.
She's got a gravy train coming to her when Trump passes away, and but it's hilarious to me that there's so much footage out there. Obviously, it has been edited selectively out of larger clips, but there's so much footage of her like rolling her eyes at him behind his back.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Like at his fucking inauguration, there was that like right behind his head while he was, he turns around right as she's like rolling her eyes and she like does the quick fake smile.
Yeah.
Well, it won't be because Michelle hasn't written a book about that. So how can Melania fucking plagiarize it if Michelle Obama hasn't written that already?
That's the other thing is I also I will not be surprised if it is a right of center person, just broadly speaking.
I mean, it's a crazy person.
And we're going to get into this directly, but the fact is that these types of things did not happen with this frequency, or anything. Like when it did happen, it was once in the 80s with Reagan, and it was before that, things were so chill back then that they were just like walking down the fucking sidewalk like it wasn't a big deal or whatever.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true because they did put Kennedy's brain all over the sidewalk and his wife.
Sure, but after that, it was kind of, it was like 20 years later before anything remotely like that happened with the president.
after that was when the president started traveling in an armored car.
Yeah.
Like
But this
before
kind of thing used to
Yeah.
be at most a once in a lifetime thing.
Right.
And now it's like this is twice in 1 year. In
And
just a few months,
the
actually.
commonality is it's not fucking Kamala, you know?
No.
Nope.
It's Trump. And
Yeah.
and anybody that like tries to act like that's not the case. I mean, you know, the video I just put out on my channel earlier today is about a few things. And mainly just the general theme is Jeremy Griggs is either a shameless, soulless fucking scammer or a complete psychopath. You know, up to you. I'll let you decide which one it
What
is.
about both? Is both?
It could be both, yeah. But like, you know, part of it was that he made a little video about how he's mad. He was fucking raging because Taylor Swift had her comments turned off on Instagram after the debate, after she endorsed Kamala, and he's like, oh, this is just like a liberal, you know, blah blah blah, and it's like the same, you know, general attitude of like people get mad because they can't comment on your streams, they get mad because they can't reply to your tweets, and they're fucking just like act like so indignant about it. And they really do just force themselves on everything. The force is all they know. They only know how to fucking like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a fucking derangement, and it's like a form of engagement that shouldn't have been brought back to fucking political discourse.
Yeah, it's very, very grapey.
Yeah,
because he feels entitled to force Taylor Swift to hear what he has to say.
Right, and it turns out
other
actually,
celebrities.
what I found out last night when I figured this out before I edited and uploaded this shit, but her comments on Instagram have been off since 2019. She didn't turn it off specifically for this. They've been off for fucking 5 years because, you know, and there's a quote in the video where I added a little context there. And like, I wonder if he knew that ahead of time. I don't know. You know, either way, he's either, you know, completely irresponsible or, you know, yeah, he's all of that. But point being is that they have to constantly have the temperature, you know, things are ratcheted up to fucking 11 at all times with them. You know, and there's no room for actual discourse. There's no room for actual fandom. Anyway.
So yeah, amusingly, the post that has inspired our topic has since been deleted.
Which one? The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire?
Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. We deleted a tweet because we don't want to break the terms of this website we agreed to. It's a shame that even on a quote free speech website that libertarians cannot speak freely. Libertarians are truly the most oppressed minority.
Yeah, and by that, but what we're talking about, the tweet in particular, is thankfully I got a screenshot.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Cry more, fascist. That's what I have to say to that message.
There we go. Just straight up says that shit.
I mean, what is there to say about this?
Yeah, I'm just like...
yeah, I mean, if you don't think that basically that this is fucking, you know, I don't know, man, like you don't need to be in this country. You don't need to be in my chat.
Also, what does that accomplish at this point? Like what? Okay, so
well, the reason that they did it is because somebody had posted, or I'm sorry, Kamala had posted a thing saying ban assault weapons or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what this all stems from, because, you know, they believe they have a right to be able to eviscerate children at a certain rate per second, or what? Like,
I don't know.
It's very telling that tweet, I'm assuming that was on X/Twitter, which I'm no longer on.
Just Twitter.
Was a quote tweet of someone basically saying, "Hey, can we take the temperature down a little bit?"
Yep.
Yeah.
And the answer is no. Because
I know from my time on Twitter. I know from my time. Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
Go.
Nope.
Okay. I know from when I was on Twitter that the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire account has been bonkers for years. I don't know who's running it, but the Libertarian Party really needs to exercise some quality control there.
So for those who don't know, Sketchy mentioned it in the chat. There is a movement of self-described libertarians who have made themselves a political institution in the state of New Hampshire. And mostly what this has done is degrade civil services to the point that local bears are raiding people's food supplies and trash cans because there's no like trash cleanup in a organized fashion, and not enough DNR presence to do something about the bears.
Well, it's good that the New Hampshire Libertarians support the right to arm bears.
Right.
Well, so I've got something here by someone that I do believe wouldn't have posted it if he didn't believe it. It was but I guess we'll stick to our guns. We're not going to look at it.
Okay. Because as far as the ongoing event, the ongoing investigation, this event is a few hours old. We just don't know what's true yet, and the speculation is going to be bananas. And especially given how often that, even just with another, what was that school shooting the other week, just like a couple of weeks ago, the right wing immediately tried to frame that boy as trans down in Georgia. Like, do not jump all over it's a mega or whatever. Like, we don't know yet, and we'll know in a bit. But like, take your time, take a breath.
We don't even know if this
for you.
Right. We don't even know if this was an actual assassination attempt yet. It was reported that way initially,
and it's being investigated that way. But
but all we know for sure is, Florida's an open carry state, and all we know for sure is that someone with a gun apparently got into some kind of gunfight with the Secret Service near Mar-a-Lago. I've seen conflicting reports saying that they spotted him aiming it at Trump, but other reports have disputed that.
Right.
So we don't actually know what happened yet. And that is all that can really responsibly be said about it.
Yeah. So, like, as far as I'm concerned, no one got shot. Even the alleged perpetrator didn't get shot. He surrendered himself into Secret Service custody. This is a win.
Yes.
The Secret Service did their job. The former president was not ventilated. No innocent bystander was killed this time. Great.
So what's wrong with libertarians? Why are they like this? I mean, I hate to like lump them all into one, thing. Like, it's okay. Let me clarify. It's not all libertarians that are calling for.
Why is strain of libertarians this way?
Yeah.
Because they feel that the only response to their self-described oppression is violence against their oppressors. But they think their oppressors are the DMV.
Yeah, they've divorced. I alluded to this earlier, and I wish I could remember the sources to track this down with. Maybe we can put them in the description later or something. But the history of it is that around 100 years ago, all over the world, the word libertarian was synonymous with the word socialist.
Yeah.
And in American politics, that started to separate when American libertarians decided to, I don't know if they decided or whatever, but somehow the concept of oppression got divorced from the concept of capital. And so they saw only the government as a potential threat to liberty, not any concentration of hierarchical power, like which would also be organized crime or corporations or oppressive religious institutions and so forth. They identified only the government as a threat to liberty, and everything else is fine.
Like there was definitely an atheist chunk of that sort of anti-government libertarian, especially as you had like the strength of the pro-choice and anti-LGBT movements. It's like, well, that's also like, why should there be a law against that? Was the argument from that wing of the Libertarian Party in America. Was like, why, okay, so if you want, because like back in 2014 when we saw our first push for bathroom bans, the Libertarian response from like the Libertarian Party is, assault's already a crime. Why do we need a law for this? And now, as the Libertarian Party has been co-opted since, it's gone crazy since like 2016. Like it was always a mess.
Well, so this is something I'm just kind of thinking about right now. But like when it comes to libertarians, I think the same thing might be able to be said about kind of leftist socialists. And just give me a second, I'll let you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
These kind of got infiltrated by bad faith actors.
Sure.
I would think because just people in general, Americans' lack of political education, understanding allowed them to do that. There's wiggle room there. There was the vagueness of what a libertarian was to a lot of Americans. The same as there's a vagueness to what a leftist is or whatever.
Right.
And so you get people that are either unknowingly, just because they're idiots, they're representing that thing very poorly, or definitely there's some that are doing it intentionally. And yeah, since about that time, 2016, and like Blood says, that was part of the point of Charlottesville was Unite the Right, was to literally just fucking, bring all the fascists together. And like, if there's not fascists with us, but they're kind of on the right, then we're going to make them fascists.
So the point of Charlottesville was to sort of cement the co-opting of the Libertarian Party. It actually fractured it because it sort of created this crack in it between the Nazi wing of the Libertarian Party and the not Nazi wing.
Wait, are you saying the Nazis and the not Nazis, or are you saying the Nazis and then the people who didn't want to dress publicly and say they're Nazis, but otherwise?
No, the people who genuinely believe that government is a force of oppression in America, but don't believe that the government should be turned to use of force against the people of America and to the advance of capital.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
Okay,
they're not wrong that the government is a potential source of oppression.
I don't know,
but it's not the
reason. Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know the reason to compare these two things. If you're talking about the Black Lives Matter riots, as in like the cop riots, yeah, the cops were fucking really bad during that whole summer, man. They were fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe like during the demonstrations, I'm sure there's a few people that definitely acted up. But by and large, that was some of the safest, least violent protesting ever. When you consider the fact that they went for like 100 and something fucking days straight, Anyway,
the Nazis and the Nazis.
Yeah, the Nazi wing of the Libertarian Party and the Nazi enabling wing of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah,
I think
the government is bad, business is good. Did a lot of enabling.
Yeah.
Until it was too late.
Yeah, like I said, they're not wrong that the government is a potential source of oppression, but it is not the only one.
Right.
And the point of maximizing liberty is to play the different centers of oppression against each other in a system of checks and balances, you might say, so that they are constantly weakening each other. So the government should be as powerful as organized crime and capital are.
Okay.
So that they can check each other's power.
If you're talking about rioters, then yeah, I condemn rioters, man. People that are just like fucking, causing chaos for no fucking reason. Because there's oftentimes where people show up to these things to take advantage of what the demonstrators are doing. Also, there's been confirmed several examples where there were, off-duty cops and other, types of agitators that were destroying some shit, specifically for the purpose of looking like the Black Lives Matter protesters were doing it. That's not to say that's what happened with your grandfather's store. I don't know anything specific about that example, but and I'm sorry about that. That's not fucking good. But I mean, like, it's important that we distinguish who we're talking about here. Just because there's like people in a large area where there's demonstrations going on and then something gets destroyed, that doesn't mean we automatically fucking go, that was the protesters. Even
if it was the protesters, as a matter of moral principle, human lives matter more than private property. They just do.
Yeah.
And the bigger problem with the whole BLM situation is unprovoked police violence and unchecked police power, something that libertarians ought to be worried about against the populace. That is the problem. Riots that that loot someone's store is not the root of the problem. That is a
Right.
symptom of the problem. And you
Dude,
should
we were
care
literally-
more about the people who were killed.
We
than
literally
you
were
do
just
about
distinguishing these, man.
Yeah,
we
I
literally
have
just
two things I want to say. One is, we were literally just distinguishing the portions of the Libertarian Party that are Nazis and the portion that isn't, and how there is a fracture between the two now. So please pay attention before you react.
Yeah, stop looking to get
We're
offended.
trying to have an informative show, and if you have informative things to say, that's fine. But
And I don't need to respond to him, but I
we're-
just feel like he does present opportunities to kind of like, discuss nuances.
Sure.
It's just
Yeah,
whenever
he
you
does.
literally
Yeah,
aren't
but I
paying
think
attention to the show, then I'm going to get kind of frustrated.
But this is we were just going over that this is an active schism, so we're not painting with a broad brush.
Yeah.
So,
the problem here is that the Libertarian Party in the United States is not libertarian,
right,
and never really has been.
Yeah, I want to distinguish too that I want to say clearly that no, not all, like probably, I don't know the numbers. There's no way to know, but like not all libertarians are just fucking Nazis or even fascists. Although I will say that even the most sincere libertarians, as far as like the American version of libertarian, they would be okay with fascism happening.
Yeah,
they would enable fascism, and that's why I'm against that as well. And I think that it's a naive and silly and fucking selfish, way to be. That like either you just have not considered all the ins and outs and what have yous, or you have and you don't care.
The other thing I want to say is whenever you're talking about a spontaneous social event, whether it's a protest or a riot or Hurricane Katrina or your team won the Super Bowl, people are going to take advantage of that to commit crimes because it's a good time to do it. You are falling for propaganda if you believe that the people engaged or in the vicinity of the spontaneous social event are responsible for that.
Well, I would say that the individuals are responsible for their own behavior as a matter of legality, obviously. But if someone thinks that the problem with a riot is the riot, or political riot, I should say, if someone thinks the problem with a political riot is the riot and not the political problem that caused the riot, then they have been either successfully propagandized or their moral compass needs adjusting.
Another thing I would like to point out, because while it was becoming... there were signs of it at the time, but now we have more evidence of it. A lot of stores are, especially corporate stores. Like if your grandfather owns a private business and isn't a corporation, then all's well and good. But like, there's been instances of companies like Target and Walgreens, and just recently here in the area, Festival Foods have gone to their investors saying, we're going to shut these stores down because there's a problem with theft. But then because when there's theft, normally like the procedure is to call the cops and report it because your people your insurers want a bread trail, right? They want to see all the police reports and shit to reimburse you what you lost. But often those police reports don't exist. And so those thefts either were never reported or never happened. And so I would not trust a store without a police report on it. And I know a lot of the ones during the 2020 protests were definitely well documented. But we have seen an increasing amount of bad behavior from stores decrying theft where there is none.
Right.
Yeah. And this kind of rhetoric of focusing on the riots through the lens of a supposed libertarian philosophy only leads to increased police powers for state and local level governments who are still the government, but seem to always escape the critique of American libertarians who are focused on the federal government, and that's it. And so every time a libertarian complains about riots, destroying somebody's store or something like that, and tries to draw a moral equivalence between that and other forms of violence that actually harm people's that actually kill people, all that does downstream is increase police power and reduce individual liberty at the state and local level. That's what that rhetoric is for.
Likewise, when when people are shifting blames to a spontaneous social movement where there is no one, like you can't just like find the CEO of the riot or the hurricane and arrest them and charge them with crimes. It's very easy to say we need to do these things. We need to give these people more power because they're like something happened and there's no one to blame. So we have to find someone to blame. And to do that, we need more police who will then find someone to blame. Or they'll wait for the next thing and go, well, we didn't get them this time, so we need more to blame. It also takes away responsibility from companies who should... You're in business. Like if you are a free market capitalist libertarian, if your store gets robbed, that's kind of on you. Why didn't you secure your
that's
assets
the market
better?
At work.
Why didn't
market
you
forces,
hire better
baby.
security? Why doesn't your insurance policy cover that? Like you don't want a government handout. Cops are a government handout. Sorry. Tough shit.
It's the market at work, baby.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Is democracy a soft form of communism?
No. No. God. Who said that? Oh no, I gotta. We are anti-state power, but corporate power in America is state power.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's like a 51st state now, and it's corporations. And then it has more.
There's a second federal government in its corporation.
Well, I was going to say, and they have more power than all the other states. So like,
it's a soft form of communism.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever wrote this does not know the history of democracy on like even a 8th grade level.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that I did have this other thing. Somebody messaged me, I guess because it's based on all the Star Wars stuff. Maybe it's not for this show, but I don't know. It's just somebody messaged me and they don't seem to be a shithead, but yeah, it wouldn't really fit with this episode, so that's fine. I'll do it another time.
That's not even true, Blood Video. BBC, that's not. The democracy predates that.
Liberalism, yeah.
Like liberalism wasn't a concept when democracy was invented.
Wasn't it fucking was it the Greeks or ancient like
that's who we give credit to. Like the idea of a group of people nominating someone to ostensibly be in charge and hear their requests and meet their needs is fundamental in tribal government.
Yeah. Democracy has existed in every human civilization throughout history.
Yeah.
Guys, we got to do a sovereign citizen episode someday. Holy shit. Man.
Oh yeah, we do.
And try not to let it just become us just watching videos of sovereign citizens trying to get out of shit.
If we do a sovereign citizen episode, we are allowed one example clip.
No, just one. No.
Just
one
maybe,
per 10 minutes.
No, Daniel, no.
It's addictive. It really is.
That's why we get one.
Okay. Yeah.
One.
They're the guys. They believe that like if you just say the magic words, has he done the magic words? I mean, he does seem to believe that he can just say whatever words and make them mean whatever he wants them to mean. But I don't know.
Yeah, because
we weren't talking about liberal democracy. We were talking about democracy. So
yeah,
I appreciate the distinction, but like.
And a huge amount of liberal democracy's ideas were taken, we now know increasingly, from the encounters of European colonists with indigenous American societies. White people borrowed a huge amount of those concepts from philosophers in native societies that they then transported those ideas back to Europe. So
Maestro, yeah, I mean, not necessarily princes with Greeks, but like, yeah, there was people that landowners, the people that mattered, so to speak, as far as that society was concerned.
Well, you look at like the Iroquois Confederacy and a number of other like tribal alliances within the eastern portions of what we call the United States today were democratic societies.
Yeah.
So
here's an interesting bit of trivia that highlights this point. The word caucus and the process of caucus that we use in the United States sounds like it comes from Latin, but it doesn't. It's actually I forget the tribe, but it's a Native American loan word into English, and the process of the political caucus was adopted from that tribal society. That Native American
it sounds
society.
like cock.
Thanks, Dane. So, like democracy, like the idea of like the concept of democracy are seemingly intrinsic to most human societies in some way, shape, or form.
A classical libertarian would argue that it's the default state of human society, and it's only when we introduce unjust hierarchies into the system that start perpetuating themselves to maintain power that we have a problem.
If Dane wants to do a FAP stream on a Friday that is just laughing at cringe Sovsit videos, that's fine.
I mean, I do have a 5-minute right here, 5-minute libertarian cringe compilation. It's not Sovereign Citizens, but
you asked us to keep you on a schedule, sir.
And I think we're doing just fine. We're at 42 minutes. I don't know that we could even fill out the rest of an hour on this. We'd have to maybe force it. No.
Well, to be fair, you didn't give us what the actual time of the stream was supposed to be. You just said
That's true. That's true, because I'm a fucking irresponsible person.
So I think what we should move on to, because I think we've covered these libertarians, and that not all libertarians are Nazis, but the Nazi wing of the Libertarian Party has become a problem, and they're fine calling for violence. We should talk about Springfield, Ohio.
Yes. Before we do that, though, I would like to just real quick, just show you the best libertarian ever.
Okay.
He's the best. See, we looked at this. Me and Bob did a stream. It was just me and him on a Shillcast months ago, where we talked about why libertarianism is not congruent with being a superhero. You can't be a libertarian superhero. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah.
And so this was just something we watched on that. But yeah.
Point of order where?
Here, I'll fast forward so you can get to the good part. Okay, point being, guys, libertarians are not serious people. They're fucking morons in most cases, or in many cases, they're just fucking misguided to the point of being functionally morons. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I will say the people who run for the libertarian nomination are often consciously being theatrical and silly about it on purpose. They know what they're doing, and that can be really entertaining. But the people in the party who think it's real are kind of weird.
I think, and I'm gonna flip it and complain about the Green Party in a minute here. But I want to sort of break down the 4 tiers of the American libertarian movement. You have people who are maybe to the right of Bob and probably to the right of me a little, who are more civil rights oriented libertarians, who are not authoritarian, but their main focus is on the government as the source of oppression. You have, and they are broadly no longer involved in the Libertarian Party. You have the true believers. These are your Rand Paul followers, your Ayn Rand followers, or your Ron Paul followers, your Ayn Rand followers.
Who names his kid after Ayn Rand and
right. Who are true believers, and many of them are A-okay with the Nazi shit.
Right.
After that, you have the party financiers. And when we're talking about party financiers of a third party in America, they're either people who have more money than God, and this is a pet issue for them. And they're just happy to hear the talking points out there, or they are people trying to detract from one side or the other of the big two political parties. And then at the top, you have the circus, who are the people running for party leadership and party office. I'd like you to note when you vote this fall, what you're all going to do, and make sure you go to vote.org to make sure you're registered. I want you to see how many offices the Libertarian Party is running for in your state. Because maybe they're running for governor, but these people don't run for fucking anything outside of the tippy top office. Maybe you'll see one run for senator, but generally speaking, they're not, as an institution, serious people interested in running for office. They want to live on donor money every 4 years. The same is true of Jill Stein on the Green Party. This is a woman who shows up every 4 years, or her party does, and tries to get money by complaining about Democrats. And many of those complaints are incredibly valid, and the Democrats absolutely should do something to shore up that the left flank of their party. And they are bad at it, which is why she gets away with it. But she just lives on campaign contributions for 4 years, and she has come close to committing fraud several times. In 2016, after Trump had won, she promised to fight on for Hillary to get recounts in Wisconsin and 2 other states. And in Wisconsin and one of those states, I forget which, she knew she was not allowed to do that, and she put in her fundraising material that any money not used towards fighting for the recounts would go into the Green Party coffers to be used as part of their general fund. So they were just looking to steal from Democrats. That's it.
Did you mention the fact that she has stock in Raytheon?
I did not, because she's a rich person. Of course she has stock in Raytheon.
Well, I mean, it's just like you don't get to talk about war crimes being done with fucking guided missiles when you fucking put stock in Raytheon.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Also, you don't get to complain that AOC is insufficiently left wing when there are Nazis marching in the streets of Springfield, Ohio, or organizing and preparing for pogroms against Haitian immigrants and anyone they think is a Haitian immigrant.
Let's get it. Let's get to it, because fucking Nazis, man.
Also, before we get to Nazis, Jill Stein has not done one left-leaning thing to the benefit of American people because she has not once held office in this country.
Yeah.
She has done nothing to actually achieve the goal she claims to espouse.
Isn't she also not really a doctor, or at least in the most technical sense, she's only a doctor?
I forgot.
I mean, yeah, this is the thing. It's like she's a fucking scam artist. I mean, fortunately, I don't see anybody really saying, "Oh, Jill Stein." Like 2016, 2020, even I would see a lot of people in comments and replies and stuff saying they were still going to support Jill Stein or whatever, and I'd think, "Oh God, you fucking idiot!" But like, I don't really see that anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. That's a good sign, I guess. I hope.
Well, Jill Stein's got some of that Russian scent on her.
Oh yeah,
yeah. She's been
from the last election cycle. Putin. Yeah, and any third party or attempted a third party that does not prioritize organizing and collecting power at the local and state level first before national level is just not serious.
It's sus, yeah.
And will never
you're a
succeed.
Third party and you're not starting at the local level, you're not a serious party.
When the Greens start running candidates for the local school board and winning at the local school board, then we can have a conversation. Until then, you're not serious.
Or things like any office that is involved in running Department of Public Works. Department of Natural Resources, because a lot of those are elected positions in states.
Also, she's anti-vax.
Well, that says everything you need to know. Don't vote for an anti-vax candidate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Multiple reasons to just not take her seriously and to call out her bullshit anytime she comes up.
Yep. All right. So, sadly, we did see it coming. Where should we begin with our Springfield, Ohio story?
Well, I guess we'll make a sandwich out of it. God damn it! I shouldn't have said it. I knew it was okay. Why is Springfield in the news? Well, because of the stuff. The stuff, right? The stuff that came up. The stuff that Trump was saying at the debate on Tuesday. Saying as in like yelling it, desperately. Which obviously
they're eating
is not,
the pet of the people.
I was thinking about the words he's saying more the other day, and I was like, wait a second. People are losing. He's saying that they said something like their dogs are going missing, and then they're finding out that they were eating their dogs. It's like, how did they find out that the dog was eaten? If the dog went missing, it's like the people that ate it come by and go, "Hey, we found your dog. Oh, thank you, but we ate it."
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you're talking about these sorts of panics, they don't have to.
Right. And then I also wondered, did this start because maybe him and fucking RFK Jr. were sitting around, and RFK Jr. was like, man, they really got mad whenever they found out I ate that dog back in the day. And because there was a news story of him,
that would have been way funnier than what actually happened.
Oh, right. So yeah, true. We do have the actual source of how that whole thing began. So let's talk about that.
All right. So before that, we should talk about the Haitians in Ohio. Because Ohio is a weird place to find a few thousand Haitians. So Haiti's had some trouble the last decade or so, and they've had migrants come to the United States and seek asylum, which you are legally entitled to do. Any person can enter the United States and request asylum by turning themselves over to the authorities. And by law, the United States government has to hear your case. Now, immigration's courts are vastly underfunded and overloaded, and so these often don't go very well, and immigration lawyers are probably the hardest working, most decent lawyers in the country. So, a bunch of them were effectively invited to this city in Ohio that had been failing. It's a city in Ohio. It's a Rust Belt city. Their manufacturing was drying up. They couldn't keep people in jobs. They didn't have enough people, and they were impacted by the opioid crisis pretty heavily. And so these refugees moved there and were given jobs. And while there has sort of become a housing issue in the area because you've created an economic boom faster than you can create housing. So the area has begun to become revitalized, and there is certainly a concern of gentrification and just a general housing shortage. So there are genuine issues, but they're not eating cats and dogs. They're not eating people's pets. That's a thing a Nazi made up. An actual, literal, self-described
neo-Nazi. Do we have the clip of that? Because I can grab that.
Go ahead and grab the clip. So while you grab the clip, I will give you the... While you grab the clip, I will give everyone the story of how that clip we're about to play ended up on the debate stage on earlier this week. So, vice presidential candidate and Davenport enthusiast, J.D. Vance.
Ottoman enthusiast.
Ottoman enthusiast.
What is a Davenport?
It's a couch.
Oh.
It's another name for a couch. So he promulgated this on Twitter. Because he's a rat fucker. Couch fucker. Rats are fast enough to scurry away from him. And that's how it ended up a talking point in Republican circles. And when the vice presidential candidate of the Republican Party is spouting it, I think I was like, oh, this is going to come up in the debate, isn't it? This is going to happen. And then it happened.
Yeah.
And so Donald Trump claimed, kind of unprompted, if I recall, like there wasn't a question about it. It was just sort of broadly the topic of immigration. He brought up these Haitians, and he inflated the number of them that there are. He spread the lie that they're eating cats and dogs, and generally a piece of shit stuff. The moderators in a show of journalism unseen by CNN were like, this is just a fucking lie.
Yeah. It's also worth pointing out that the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio are here legally.
Yes, none of them are illegal immigrants. None of them.
Some of them
are
might be,
undocumented. But... Yeah, there probably are some undocumented migrants there, but by and large, they are all here as legal refugees. They have to get their permission to be here renewed every 18 months because they're concentrated in one area. It makes that process much easier than if they were spread all over the place. And they've been here since, I believe that the first wave was in 2017. So this is not they didn't show up yesterday. They've been here for years.
Yeah. And just for the benefit of those who don't know much about this topic or who are new to it or whatever, who might be on the other side politically, it is worth noticing that Trump and Vance have dropped the word undocumented and illegal from their rhetoric. They're just talking about migrants
now, which was always going to happen.
And Vance described them as people who do not belong in this country.
Right.
He doesn't say undocumented people. He doesn't say anything else indicating that they don't belong in this country, legally speaking. He's referring to people who are here, not only legally in the case of the Haitian immigrants, but at the invitation of our country, because we wanted to help them after the natural disasters in their own country.
Yeah.
Man, so I can't seem to find the right keywords to find that thing. So
I know that if you're referring to the Nazi who spoke at the city council, or something, I know that the Majority Report covered that. They have a clip of it. I don't know if it's in any of their video titles, but that's where I saw the clip. So you might be able to find it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I had not noticed that actually about them dropping the illegal. So I mean, they, because discourse is what it is, and then there's so much crazy shit going on constantly. That's like it's kind of. I'll admit I missed it. I'm sure I heard them say it. Well,
they're not consistent about it.
Yeah,
they're not consistent about it. But I've noticed it more and more lately that they just don't. Most of the time, they don't drop in any kind of qualifier in front of the word. Yeah, immigrant. They just say immigrants or migrant crisis, which doesn't exist. There is no migrant crisis.
There is no migrant crisis.
Yeah. All these scare words. And also, this thought just occurred to me. Let's assume it were true that Haitian migrants in Springfield were so desperate for food that they were eating people's pets. The answer there is to make sure these people have access to food. It's not to
persecute them.
Yeah. So even if it were true that they were, which it is not, to be clear, but if it were true that they were hunting and eating people's pets, it is still racist to call them out for that and say that the problem is they're eating pets and not that the problem is they don't have reliable access to food.
I would like to ask any pet owners listening, like maybe you have an outdoor cat. You have a dog. Is your dog just wandering the streets for some asshole to grab? It's inherently unbelievable. But I think there's a Rolling Stone article. Well, it's been covered elsewhere. I saw it in The Guardian earlier, but I'm seeing it in Rolling Stone now as well, where J.D. Vance has admitted, quote, if I have to create stories so that the American media pays attention to the suffering of the American people, as he describes it, then that's what I'm going to do. So he is creating imaginary stories in response to imaginary suffering. What that is lying. He has admitted on the air that he will lie to advance his agenda.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Dana Bash did us a solid this morning. I don't know if anyone saw it,
Yeah.
the clip of it, but she's normally terrible.
She actually stepped up.
Yeah, she held his feet to the fire, and actually, because his defense has been, well, I'm just responding to messages from my constituents. They've all, people in my district have called me, blah, blah, blah. And she actually, and at least at the end of the clip I saw, said, okay, well, I would like to talk to those people. Tell us their names so we can interview
Did somebody
them.
say something about making up stuff? I thought I heard something like that, like making up whatever they need to make up to.
Yeah, because I think
I feel like, yeah, because I don't know. This seems relevant. This guy. Right?
I think we've talked about this guy before. Oh, is that Chris Rufo?
That's him. Him.
Is Chris Rufo asking for people to create videos to back this claim up?
Well, look, you can say what you want, but he got replies. People sent him stuff. Okay. So he said, all right, let's settle it. I'll pay $5,000 bounty to anyone who can provide my team with hard, verifiable evidence that Haitian migrants are eating cats in Springfield, Ohio.
I'm going to guess a bunch of blurry videos and
oh my God,
old clips that are out of context, probably from more than a year ago and probably not actually in Ohio, even much less Springfield, Ohio.
Exclusive. We've discovered that migrants are in fact eating cats in Ohio. We have verified with multiple witnesses and visual cross references that African migrants.
Also, they're not African; they're Haitian.
Yeah, you said Haitian, man. Like, so I bet he probably did that so he doesn't have to pay the $5,000.
Probably.
Because I said Haitian, man. But yeah, the next barbecued these cats last summer. Jesus Christ, man.
Dayton, Ohio is not Springfield.
Right. None of this is.
And the video. Wow, man, I'm good. Bingo.
There's literally. Okay, so like it's people saying that the guy had a cat on a grill. There's no that's what the video is of. Not actually of anything. It's like there's a video. There's two cats walking. The guy goes, "Oh, look, there's a cat." And they go, "Yep, he had those cats on a grill," or something like that. It's
so there's no video of a cat on the grill. It's just a video of a guy saying there was a cat.
Right, of a cat standing on a grill and someone saying there is a cat on a grill.
But when you're Chris Rufo, who is essentially, he's an X-Men villain.
That's
good enough for him because whatever propaganda he needs to fucking make mutants look bad. I mean, sorry, I'm getting confused.
Yeah, you're X-brained.
No, we did the episode we did on him. We compared him to Mr. Sinister, basically. He's actually more like Dr. Stasis, actually.
Yeah, he's dollar store Dr. Stasis.
Yeah. The cat's off camera. You just missed it.
Yeah.
I promise you, this video doesn't show it, but it was nearby.
Yeah, the classic Bigfoot photo where it's all blurry. Same pose, but it's a cat.
Yeah.
Well, then there was that picture of that guy that was carrying something. That I forget what it was he was carrying, but they were saying that was a dog, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a bird. That was what I was going to say. They're also whipping up a moral panic about apparently Haitians are capturing and eating geese and ducks. The horror.
So like white people?
Yeah.
They're white people hunting?
How many of these people have relatives or are themselves white people with unregistered guns who go out and hunt animals for food without a license? How many of them do that? I would bet a lot of them.
Even if that guy who was seen there's a picture of him carrying the fowl of some sort. I don't know if it was a geese or a duck from the picture. Even if that guy shot it and killed it to eat it, yeah, like even if he has a duck license, okay, so what? He did a thing that Americans do all of the damn time. That guy's American as apple pie. He's out here hunting. That's Midwest as fuck.
Oh, apparently Lucifer Writing is saying that the guy in the picture was working for the state clearing up dead animals, and the one he was carrying had been hit by a car.
Makes sense.
That makes
I did want to update on a personal thing that I'd talked about recently that this relates to. Dude that brandished a gun at me. The reason he did that is I confronted him because we'd seen him and recorded him a few times hurting his dogs, these beautiful husky dogs, puppies. And then when I confronted him and he was a piece of shit about it, because of course he is. Then he pulled a gun out of his waist line, and I got that on my camera as well. And in fact, he actually was like, "Yeah, make sure you get the gun." I was like, "I am making sure I'm getting the gun." So he confirmed it right there on the video for me. Talked to hate to say it, but I've been in coordination with the officer of the fucking law, but she's a cool one because she specifically focuses on animal abuse crimes and stuff like that. And she's also, this dude's going to be charged with some crimes, not just for the dogs, but for pulling a gun on me. So fuck that dude.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
I don't know. There's update, but there are definitely people that, and the thing is about this is that the sad thing about that story, and this relates to Lucifer's point, if these dogs don't have, it's unknown what's going to happen to these dogs. If this guy lives by himself and he can't take care, nobody pass him to somebody or whatever, then they might have to go to the pound or whatever, to the animal control center, and good chance that they might not be able to find a home, because if they've been abused since they were little tiny puppies, essentially, and they're still puppies, but they're big puppies, then they're probably going to be fucking aggressive and not well behaved and stuff. And those are exactly the kinds that, even here in Oregon, where they do have a pretty good rate for rehoming animals, and they don't tend to euthanize many of them. But that's exactly the kind that would be euthanized.
Fostering an animal so that it can be given a permanent home where it can be healthy and happy is very hard. My dad and mom separately have both done that. It's a lot of work.
I think I could show you this. Here's a picture of the doggies and his gun. Look at these guys.
They're just little guys.
Little cute little guys.
And a gun.
They're fucking adorable. And then, if you can see here, there actually is a pistol in his hand there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's an idiot. All right, enough of my personal shit, but justice to some degree, I guess.
Anarchy Hamster just reminded me that the Proud Boys in chat reminded all of us the Proud Boys are marching in Springfield
with the Klan and a neo-Nazi group.
Wait, the Proud Boys they said they're not fascists or racist, though.
Well, it's amazing what you can say when you lie, Dane.
They're just a boys' club.
Say anything.
And Trump is planning to have a rally there soon, according to recent news reports.
I would deny, if I were the mayor of that town, I would deny him a permit. I would just be like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think Harris and Walls need to go there and do a show of solidarity.
I think so too.
By the way, I did find that video.
Oh, nice. Well, why don't you play that?
Well, is there are there some fascists we need to be looking at in Springfield?
I would play the video because the video. Yeah.
Sorry.
Too soon, Mark. Too soon.
So the actual Nazi who started the racist Haitian rumors.
Not spend all their time online looking at what, let's say, the right-wing lunacy is in the darkest, creepiest corners of the internet, or for that matter, what the Republican vice presidential nominee is tweeting about multiple times.
Yep.
There was a video of a woman stopped by the police who had killed the cat. That video is not from Springfield, Ohio. It turns out from Canton, Ohio, 2.5 hours away.
Well, you heard it here. We got to vote for Trump now.
No.
The woman, as far as I can tell, is not of Haitian descent. She is definitely not a Haitian immigrant because she has been voting for over 6 years. And the Haitian immigrants who have been brought into Springfield have been done so under the temporary status, protected status program, which is a function of all the political and the political disaster situation in Haiti, and also the natural disasters. And so all of it was sort of made up, but it wasn't made up by Donald Trump. It wasn't made up by J.D. Vance. It wasn't even made up by Charlie Kirk. We have video of the guy who made it up. Here it is. This guy is, his name is Nathaniel, and he is the first person who seems to have brought it up in the city of Springfield, Ohio. And he is at a city commission meeting talking about Haitian migrants. Nathaniel is a fairly well-dressed young man who also happens to be a member of the neo-Nazi group Blood Pride.
Oh. Nathaniel of Blood Pride. I was at the head of the anti-Haitian immigration march earlier this month. I'm sure the Honorable Mr. Rob Rue.
And like, look, you know, say what you want about these those guys in the 80s and 90s, the skinheads and stuff, but like at least they, I don't know, cared about their grooming habits, you know. Sorry, I'm trying to make jokes here and it's just not working.
It's hard to make jokes about this.
He did comb his hair and wear a tie. Come on.
I'm so proud of him. Not really.
Recognizes me, considering he supposedly knew of our action before we even arrived.
He's a literal Nazi. He marched with swastikas.
First of all, I would like to dispel the myth that you knew of our march and intentionally had no reaction or made no forewarning about it as a preventative measure. You had no more idea than the police officers or Haitians. And it's frankly insulting to our organization to make such a claim.
Oh, imagine that. He's got a grievance. You know? Well, because he is that, essentially.
No,
like
he wishes he was. He wishes he's not. I'm not going to give him that power. No, he's a fucking LARPer.
Second, I've come to bring a word of warning.
Oh.
Stop what you're...
Grievances and threats. Imagine that from a Nazi.
From a Nazi. I did not see that coming.
Before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian.
Fuck this motherfucker. I'm getting him off the fucking screen.
Get him off the screen.
Like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
If you're looking for those things, this is the sort of person that will bring them to your town.
Yeah, and this guy is patient zero for the most recent claims about Haitians eating cats and dogs in Springfield. This guy made it up.
This motherfucker.
So you know all those videos that there's a lot of them too, of just a Nazi he's like being really cocky and stuff, and then somebody just fucking decks him. You know, and he just fucking like bloop like a sack of fucking moldy shit hits the ground. Because they talk this big fucking game, because in their minds they're fucking gassing themselves up. They're like, giving threats, I'm gonna give you a warning and just blah blah blah, you know, but like they can't fucking back it up. Like almost never, you know. I mean, you know, statistics being what they are, sure, there's probably a Nazi here and there that can take a punch, but for the most part, they're Nazis because they're fucking cowards and morally, constitutionally fucking fragile.
Yeah, they're boring, weak people who are led around by the nose, who can't think for themselves, can't fight for themselves, can't take ownership of their own life and try and do better and fight for better. They have to try and hate someone else using the most cliche, idiotic, overdone insults, because that's all they have. They can't do any better.
I spent a couple of years as part of a self-defense collective, and we spent many hours studying all the footage of like guys like this and how they you know, who talk tough and show up to riots and throw punches and how terrible they are at fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just put that out there. They don't know how to throw a punch, let alone how to take one.
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, they fill themselves up with their fucking hate and they think that that's like all you need, like, because hate makes you feel real fucking powerful, man. Like real powerful. In fact, we could probably, if we wanted to, get into somebody that was defending the concept of hate the other day.
Yeah.
But it's just like anger. Like, you know, obviously anger is a component of hate, but it's more like hate is a targeted, nurtured anger. You know, and like, yeah, it just, anger is a evolutionary benefit because it allows us to get out of situations, or we can use anger for things. It's useful. But hate, generally, I don't really feel like there's much use for it.
Because you can't, if you're spending all of your emotional energy hating on someone, it's really hard to fight them effectively. Like, one of the, you know, people, you know, we talk about like how the Germans and how the Nazis hated the Jewish people and the Romani people and queer folks.
So isn't this is Springfield, Ohio, right?
This is Springfield, Ohio, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Weird that it's a fucking battleground state. Weird
that it's JD Vance's state too.
Oh.
But I wanted to say that for now, because a lot of this sort of shit is also in Project 2025.
Well, I haven't dropped our FAPcast on that yet, or elements from it yet, so that'll be soon.
The thing with it is that the way you go about it is you don't treat them like an enemy that has to be, when you're going to do all the violence, you can't just make them look so weak. You have to balance it, and you can't do that by hating them. If you're high on your own supply, you can't fight an enemy effectively if you see them as an enemy.
Yep. I mean, hate ironically kind of gives some, at least the optics of a power to the person that you hate. Because like, why would you hate them if they weren't obviously something substantial, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's why it's important to just make fun of Nazis, just to make fun of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say, this is why the Harris campaign is experiencing so much success right now, because they're running on joy and irreverence.
Yeah.
And she basically mocked Trump to his face and laughed in his face on national television, and he came completely unglued about it.
Well,
that is how you discredit fascists in the public eye. If you approach them and try to make people afraid of them, that gives them power. They like that people are afraid of them.
Oh yeah.
And they like it if people are nice to them.
I can prove what you're saying right now, because I happened to grab some screenshots the night of the debate afterward from a certain, couple of forums here of people that were not happy with what they just seen happen to their boy.
Oh, fun.
So there's this. Let me make sure I'm going the right direction. Yeah, okay.
He's being a strong man, which means he's got a glass jaw. Yeah, everyone is laughing at you because you're a joke.
Oh, this one's really disgusting. I learned a fucking racial slur I didn't know existed. It's fucking.
Oh no, I don't. Just change the page then.
And then look, this has some slurs, but it is hilarious because of just how quickly it all devolved into just saying slurs about unrelated, groups and stuff like that. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to start saying, the K word and stuff.
Well, go ahead.
That's what Trump did on the debate stage. He didn't throw in slurs, but that was essentially what he did especially after she teased him about his crowd sizes. He just became a stream of consciousness of bigotry and insanity.
Because that when you're that far up the nonsense pipeline, you don't have, you're no longer thinking coherently at a certain point. It's the brainworms things. It's the J.K. Rowling mold thing, where it's just like her brain is so fucking warped that she can't talk coherently anymore. She just sounds like a raving lunatic. Because you're so divorced from reality, all you have left is slurs. You probably don't even know what they mean anymore. you just know I'm supposed to say this to make them upset so I win. Because if they're upset, I'm winning.
I want to give everybody a taste of just what. So the literal fucking KKK. Like, come on, man, y'all aren't trying to make a comeback, but we really got to make sure they don't. Give everybody just a hint of what Haitians are dealing with, and just the people of Springfield in general.
Because
notice how it says foreigners and Haitians out, so it's not just Haitians. They want everybody out.
I think the only reason they put both was to link the two.
Yeah.
Because I imagine at this point, after 6-7 years of these people being in town, they're just part of the town now. It doesn't take that long for a group of people to just be normal in your town. And
yeah, in fact, there's been a lot of news stories, good news stories, about this of the people of Springfield, of all races, flooding to Haitian restaurants as a show of solidarity and infusing the Haitian community with a lot of money as a result.
And getting some really good food, I bet.
Probably.
Look, they don't like cops either, man. Like, come on, we got that in common. Can you not do the hate thing? We can look at this other stuff together if you just don't do that, right?
Well, the problem is they have to say they hate cops because they don't want anyone to know that they're cops, right?
That's true.
It's the Klan wants to blame the cops that way. Nazi Bruce Wayne and Hoodman aren't seen in the same place at the same time. No one's asking too many questions.
I mean, look, I don't know if anybody has spare time or any kind of thing. Like they have a dog that that has some really nasty craps, and you want to put that in a box and send it to that or something. I wouldn't suggest you do that, but
So I want to answer Mark's question here, because I actually know something about this from the Posse Comitatus here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Most people in the Klan or Klan-like organizations don't want to do anything. They want to just sit around and be mad. Like the leaders just want to sit around, collect their dues from the suckers, and occasionally talk a good game, but never show the fuck up.
Yep.
Because a very disturbingly large number of white people in this country, more than will admit to it publicly, agree with the Klan on this. This is why the election numbers are so close, why the needle can't seem to move against Trump, no matter how bad he looks in public, because huge numbers of people, particularly white men in this country, would rather live under a mad king than under a person of color.
Yeah.
Yes.
On top of that, it's they know they're the bad guys. They know the reason that part of the reason they don't want to do that is they know that most people don't agree with them outside of their bubble. They're aware they're in a bubble. They think they're right, which is one of the reasons we have to fight them so vigorously, is that they believe their race is bullshit. Like, this isn't to excuse them. They're racist to the core. But that cowardice, they're cowards. At the
It's
end
more.
of the day.
It's not. A lot of them are cowards, yes, but the function of the masks is to sow doubt in the minds of people of color.
Yeah.
About which white people in their communities are the ones who can be trusted.
Well, it's also just to not be held accountable for
that. Yes, it's that too. It's all of that. But the point, the fear they're trying to evoke is that if you're a black person or another community that they target, the friendly old white man that you go into the bodega and buy a sandwich to and have friendly conversations about your family with every morning could be the Grand Wizard of the local Ku Klux Klan, and you would never know.
Right.
So you're always on guard, and you're always making yourself socially smaller as a safety measure. That's why they do it. That's what the masks are for.
That's a huge part of it. And there's truth in that, because I'll speak from personal experience as a trans person. I know people who know I am trans and are very friendly to me in person. And even when I've, heard about them talking about me to other people, they have had a lot of nice things to say about me. They're still going to vote for Trump and Vance because fuck them. Right? Because they don't care that much about me. So that it's you never know who your friends are on that level, right? Because like I can be a friendly acquaintance with anybody, but like I'm not going to vote to criminalize my friend's healthcare. That person's not your friend. They just act like it. So there's already a societal built-in mistrust that minorities unfortunately have to deal with. And I think I know some Native folks who get that fucking hard because generally we are taught to be very sympathetic to Native people, but there's also a lot of anti-Native racism that is huge, especially in areas close to reservations or close to Indian-owned and operated casinos.
As Ethan Van Sciver's dad talked about.
Yeah. So, and a lot of Native people know that, like, it's pretty common that they see, especially white folks, as being two-faced. That we're nice to their face and mean behind their backs.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking as a white person who has been in rooms in the deep South with those friendly white people and heard what they say about black people or trans people when there are none of those folks around.
Right.
The belief that they're two-faced is justified, and you never, if you're not one of us, you can never be sure.
Right.
And I mean, you say that as someone who has been in those places. I say that as someone who is from that place, those places, and yeah,
I am too. I grew up in a trailer park on the edge of a swamp in Florida.
Oh yeah, I'm more redneck than you. It's
checkmate, groomer.
When they believe that you are one of them, they will fucking let the mask fall. They will, I've known people. I knew guys that like in high school that had Confederate flag just taking up the entirety of a wall basically in his bedroom, and he knew exactly what it was about. And this is like a fucking idiot at my fucking high school that he probably didn't graduate or anything. I don't remember, but like he's a fucking idiot. So like these people that try to get online and say it's not about that, it's about heritage. No, you're fucking lying. You know what it's about.
We know. Yeah, I work with someone who had a lot of anti-gay things to say and a lot of anti-trans things to say before he knew I was trans. And I never came out officially anywhere. I just sort of transitioned socially and let people figure it out because, I mean, I'm growing boobs. My face structure has changed. People are going to figure it out on their own. I didn't really see a need to make an announcement. That's just not my way.
Yeah.
But when he realized it, his whole demeanor as to what he would tell me and how he would talk to me changed in an instant.
Yeah, it's like, man, you really want to memorialize that war? Come on, y'all got beat.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind that the war has lasted like a fraction of the time that Michael Dorn has played Worf on TV, right? Like,
yeah. I was going to say one of my favorite cultural memes is lists of things that lasted longer than the Confederacy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that. That sounds fun.
It's a lot. It's a lot of things.
Remind me if we do actually have time at the end, I'd like to spotlight just kind of a bit of I guess an anti-fapper. I don't know what we'd call him. Kind of a legend, somebody who could have gone one way and went the other way and needs to be recognized.
Well, let's do that right now, and then we can move on to Rings of Power, which was supposed to be our third topic of the night.
True. Well, did you want to wrap up this on this topic while I look up something to
Sure,
find
you look it up, and I'll cover one more thing.
Okay.
So, this particular attack, this particular set of lies about Haitians in America eating dogs and cats is not a new lie. This sort of lie has been applied to immigrants basically for over 100 years now. Most famously with Chinese people and other people of Asian descent are often accused of putting dogs or cats in Chinese food at Chinese restaurants. When there was a wave of Vietnam immigrants to the United States after the Vietnam War, there was anti-Vietnamese sentiment that included rumor mongering that they were eating people's pets. Beyond that, the similar things as far as like there's been claims that the Haitians are eating, like Haitians in Haiti are making food from dirt and eating dirt. Similar things were said about Irish immigrants and Italian immigrants. People would comment on the smell of Italian food as though the Italian people were a stinky people. So this sort of fear-mongering over these people are different from us, and we know that because they eat different than us, is not new. And even in Trump's first campaign, some of his anti-Mexican immigrant, anti-Hispanic immigrant rhetoric was like, oh, they're going to put taco trucks everywhere. And I'm just like, hey, like, they should run the country then.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember like that they talked that up like it was an actual bad thing. And most of the country went, taco trucks on every corner?
Please.
Sign me.
Right. Okay, so like that is a reason to vote for Hillary Clinton then. If she is going to do that, like food trucks have a lot of really good food that's often better sourced and better for you than like fast food places. They're almost all local businesses.
Yeah, and they're often like much more traditional than you'll get in like chain restaurants or even like brick and mortar restaurants.
Yeah,
because it's run by like a family who are just like sharing their traditional recipes going back generations.
Yeah, and just think of like, boy, in places with food scarcity, that'd be great.
Yeah,
because now like even like the local chains and shit have to compete with the food truck. So it really is like the first victim of, back up, the second victim of racism, of any racism, is whatever the majority is. Because whatever you're going to do is going to hurt if you're trying to hurt your black neighbor, you're going to inevitably hurt yourself. You're going to advocate for policies that hurt you and the neighbors you don't want to hurt because you're stupid.
Yeah. And this explains why, you'll often hear people wonder, why do so many poor white people vote against their own self-interest again for things like, welfare programs or Medicare for all that would immediately benefit them, but they keep voting for Republicans, and it's because those programs would also help black people.
Right. They would rather.
Yeah. They would rather see those groups of people suffer than benefit from something that also benefits those people.
There's a school in Connecticut. It's part of the state, or it was part of the state, like high school athletic league or whatever, that dropped out of the league because one high school in the whole state had one single trans athlete. So they have hurt all of their students who participate in sports because they want to make one person in one school unwelcome.
Jeez.
That it's the same sort of shit. They will spite themselves first if they think it will hurt a minority, whether it is chasing hardworking people out of Ohio or getting mad at a kid in school.
And it's important to keep in mind too, before people get too conspiratorial with us.
Yeah.
That a lot of this isn't conscious.
No.
This is the result of internalizing white supremacy for generations. You're like a fish in water. You don't know you're doing it.
Right.
But their instinctive fear of others
and it
drives them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why
policies that hurt them.
As I've always said here on the channel, that I believe emotional intelligence is the distinction And fortunately, it's something that can be developed. It's not something you just have or don't, right? And like, in a way, it is kind of a choice to just remain unself-aware and unaware of your biases, because if you're self-aware, you're going to be more aware of your biases. You can examine those things. If you aren't emotionally kind of just like, if you learn how to process your emotional reactions to things, you're more likely to be able to examine your own biases, because you're not going to be judging yourself so harshly, which is why I think a lot of people don't examine their biases. Because then they're going to be like, oh no, that makes me a piece of shit. I don't know. It's like, no, man, you just got to work through that shit.
Or like, just, okay, you're a piece of shit. So what? Like,
well, I mean, yeah, you've done some piece of shit, but like, stop doing it. It's never too late. But like, if you would have told me
in a moment,
you would have told me in 2002, 2004, that, a paragon of emotional intelligence and just like wisdom and like just being a decent dude would be Steve-O from Jackass, I would not have believed you. But Steve-O canceled a plan to get breast implants for a comedy prank after talking to a transgender person he met on surgery day. It's not all fun and games. So he revealed in a new interview with Consequence that he scrapped a plan to temporarily get breast implants for hidden camera sketches that he was planning to film for his upcoming live tour. The idea was for Steve-O to make himself look like a woman and then trick groups of men on the street, which is extremely fucking problematic.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I got within 10 hours of being in surgery for that. The surgery was supposed to happen at 8 in the morning, and 10 p.m. the night before, I got a call from the anesthesiologist, had backed out of it because he found that it was me doing it as a stunt. That kind of set off a chain reaction where the doctor didn't want to be associated with it anymore, and they were having trouble finding another surgery center to make it happen. The next day, he was at a grocery store, and the clerk checking him out happened to be transgender, so he revealed his grand plan to get breast implants, which, also just like not ideal to just be like, hey, trans person, here's... But yeah, fortunately, this trans person was willing to, give him some perspective on this shit. Yeah.
I'm tempted to say divine intervention, sir.
It kind of, it is.
I have a less charitable take. I'm actually, how we just talked about, like, living in the propaganda so much you don't notice it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucking this. This is one of those, like, oh, heartwarming stories. Someone paid off a whole school's lunch debt. And you're like, wait a minute. Why do schools have fucking lunch debt? Why do they grown-ass man need a grocery store cashier to tell him that what he was doing was fucking wrong? Back the fuck up.
Yeah, and this is like the bar.
I'm not gonna just go out and fucking defend him entirely, but I mean, like, knowing what we know about the guy, that he's gotten tattoos, like while off-roading. Henry Rollins gave him an off-roading tattoo. Like, all of his, he just does. That's kind of just has been his thing for a long time, with doing shit without really thinking through the consequences.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I doubt that he's on the internet looking through these things and looking at perspectives the way that I've been. I mean, I never would have done anything like this, but there was a time when I was much less aware of the harms that trans people face and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I think
I
was going to say, I think this story is like a little overblown, because this is the bare minimum from somebody here.
It's not that he did a good thing; it's that he didn't do a bad thing. And I'm not going to pat him on the back for it.
The context that I'm using with it is that he used to be a fucking severe addict. I mean, he's technically still is. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. But he's an addict who was, basically killing himself and damn near died, and turned that around. And like, I've watched some of his podcasts and stuff, and he's now just like he's not an idiot, believe it or not. And
no, he's not.
And he actually does seem to give a shit about other people and stuff like that. And I don't know. All right, sorry I brought it up. Then we'll fucking get
it's fine. It's worth talking about, because I think there's a lot here to talk about. But I needed to point out that, like, the counterfactual on this is that, like, this isn't he did a good thing. This is he didn't do a bad thing.
I was just trying to encourage anybody that was watching that might have some biases or whatever to see that, like, this isn't something that you have to fucking whatever. My bad.
Yeah, I would say that it's an important but small first step in the right direction from Steve-O. And what he should be doing now, I think, if he's going to talk about this publicly, which he didn't have to do.
No.
His next step should be doing something of service to the trans community.
Especially because his little prank, this is what makes me mad. This is why I got kind of upset, Dane, when I first read about this and when it showed up on the show just now, is his prank to pretend to be a woman gets trans people killed. It gets trans people killed in places I have to work where it's not a crime. Because you can say, oh, I thought they were coming on to me and that they hid the fact that they were trans from me. So I killed them. Now let me go. And they get the fuck off. So his little joke, his little haha is literally putting people like me in danger. That's why I'm so agitated about this.
Well, so I mean, I get that and I understand, and I of course I have empathy for that. But like, I'm trying to say that there is a distinction between him doing it, you know, kind of dipshittily, and Matt Walsh doing it.
Oh, I agree 100%. He's not Matt Walsh. No, he's not that bad. He's just
like, I don't think that Steve-O is going, oh man, this is going to get trans people killed, but it's going to be funny or something like that.
No, I don't think he was doing that. I think he was a moron who didn't know the ramification of what he was doing. And it took him until after the surgery was canceled to learn it.
Yeah, this is an example of how implicit bias works. He had no malice towards the trans community by thinking about this joke and wanting to carry it out.
And I don't think you have malice in showing this clip either, Dane. I want you to know I'm not mad at you. I know I sound upset because I'm upset, but I'm not upset at you or anyone in particular. I'm upset at this is the world we live in.
Yeah. And like we like to point out all the time, bigotry and prejudice are not about malice. It's not about whether you are a good or a bad person. It's about whether you recognize your biases and deal with people empathetically or not. The fact that I'm certain I have done racist and transphobic and homophobic things that I never knew I did.
Yeah, same.
And it's not because I was a bad person. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So I think it's charitable. It's a good thing that Steve-O, when confronted with that reality, did not lean into transphobia. I think that speaks well.
That's a fair point. That's actually, you know what, I agree that is a good thing he did, because he could have gone the other way on it. So I will say corrected on that.
So if he's going to talk about this publicly, I think what he did, you know, talking about it publicly the way he did is a good thing, and it's a good first step for him. But if he decided to talk about it publicly, he needs to do a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
To be consistent about, you know, being an ally to trans people more going forward.
Yeah.
He also said, I knew what my motivation was. I knew what my intention was, and it wasn't to be hurtful to anybody. I was just trying to get laughs. I had done a bunch of workshop shows to test out material, and I had a number of trans people come to me after the shows to voice support for the stunt. And I think some people would have been okay with it, and some people wouldn't have been. It would have been a mixed bag. The
Trans
clerk
people are not a monolith.
category and said that the part where I deliberately went out to trick people into thinking that I was a woman and then fooling them and then kind of celebrating the idea of hate towards trans people, that was a bad thing. Additionally, the clerk described how they weren't allowed to use the bathroom at their place of work, that there were like maybe 28 states in the country that would arrest them for having an ID that said they're female on it, that there were politicians making concerted efforts to lock them up in internment camps. It was really pretty heartbreaking, the level of oppression that was described.
Yeah.
So yeah, framed like that, I thought about it in a way I hadn't before, where, you know, wow, maybe it's not all fun and games, especially the pranks. It's all about choosing when not to be a jackass, you know?
Yeah.
I'm glad he mentioned that he had some trans friends who were supportive of some aspects of the joke, because it highlights the fact that trans people, like any community, have a diversity of opinions on things, and they're not a monolith. But there are certain lines you should never cross.
He might have said it in a certain way that didn't really, you know, specify. Because at first, when I first saw it, I didn't know the whole thing about tricking people was a part of it, and then I was like, "Oh God, dude."
Yeah, that could have gotten him killed.
Yeah, that could have gotten him like that. He would be putting himself in danger, and I think that's like, you are going to get yourself killed for this. especially if he's just getting breast implants and like doing some, like you can do a lot with makeup, but like sorry I got so raw there. But like I know what it's like. Yeah,
it's justified. You're the trans person in this discussion. We should be centering your experiences.
Well, I mean, there's Morgan, and then there's also Guy Ladriel.
Oh,
Guy Ladriel.
touche.
Transition. Speaking of transition,
we need a palate cleanser. Let's all have a palate cleanser.
let's talk about this fucking guy.
This fucking guy who is a jackass.
Can I admit to a weakness when it comes to fantasy?
Sure.
Sometimes it takes me a long time, and I even have to like make effort outside of watching the show to learn characters' names.
Oh yeah, I'm the worst.
I don't remember this dude's name.
You could be forgiven for not remembering this guy's name, because up until this episode,
he
wasn't doing much of consequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely did something of consequence now.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a photo of this fucking guy so everybody knows who we're talking about.
This fucking guy.
This is like he's the spirit of Jeffrey Baratheon fucking personified. He's like reincarnated.
Yeah.
Except when I used to sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say hats off to this actor, Leon Wadham, I think his name is. Because I have not hated an on-screen character this much since Joffrey Baratheon.
Right.
He's
well, yeah.
so hateable.
It's the same thing too, right? Except he's more of an adult than Joffrey was. It's like this Weasley, snivelly, fucking spoiled little prince bullshit.
Yeah, because at least like Joffrey was a kid, and like his parents were fucked.
I used to feel really bad about wanting to punch Joffrey in the face. I don't feel bad about wanting to punch this guy at all.
I want this guy's whole country to drown.
Oh no! God damn it, Morgan. You know what? Spoiler.
I feel. Spoiler. I feel you will get your wish. Not only do I want his whole country to drown, I want the entire world to be reshaped because of this fucker.
Because this fucker, he's gonna bend the world.
Yeah, I mean, so this was like similar to in terms of like setting off a chain reaction kind of thing. This could be compared to, you know, like what's his name? Jaime Lannister imprisoning Ned Stark or something, right?
Sure.
I mean, literally kind of the same thing almost.
Yeah, same sort of setup. Yeah.
Yeah. So, spoilers for those who have not watched the episode. First of all, we should put that out there.
Yes.
If you have not watched this episode of Rings of Power, then put us on mute right now.
Yeah.
But I'll point. Something happened in this scene that I think was aimed directly at the lore nerds again. The character he kills, Valandil, has the name of one of the sons of Isildur, and later becomes a king of Arnor in Middle Earth.
Right.
So a lot of lore nerds who hate the show spent all of the first season going, this guy can't be the Valandil because he's not this, you know. But now
he's who Isildur named him after.
It's Isildur's best friend who just died, and he's going to be named. Isildur's going to name one of his children after his best friend.
Yeah,
because that was the whole thing. They were really good friends.
Yeah, and I was really pissed that they killed this character because I liked
him. I liked him a lot.
I liked him a lot, and I had high hopes for him, and I was hoping they were going to build him up to be some kind of character of consequence. But nope.
No, he instead of he got the wrong RR writer, I guess.
I mean, I figured something was going to happen like that from the moment when early in the episode, whenever they're like, you know, calling him captain after they, you know, told him not to.
Yeah.
And yes, I was like, this is the kind of loyalty, defiant loyalty that's going to get somebody fucking killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how he gets got is why I want this guy's whole country to drown.
Yeah.
Because so our boy had this worm. This worm comes into a church and is just like, fucking knock it over. And bro grabs his sword, like gets into a fist fight with him. This asshole draws a sword. The guy beats it out of his hands and then has him at the sword point. And his captain is like, no, don't do it. And
Well, no. First, what happens is this dude kind of gets a fucking bitch move on him, and it has him like drowning him in the fucking pool right there.
Yep.
For a minute,
Yeah.
like it kind of looked like it could go either way for a minute. Like either way, whatever, however that fight turned out, if one of them died, it was gonna be bad. You know,
it was going to be bad. It was going to be really ugly. And so when he drops the sword and lets him live on his captain's order, and then fuckface here picks up his sword and runs him through the back like a fucking coward.
Oh yeah, he what was his name? I'm sorry, the guy that died.
Valandil.
Okay, so yeah, he actually fucking dislocated his fucking arm too. This dude.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's they're trying to like de-escalate the situation, and the priest of this church is like, "Can we at least keep our holy relic before you burn this place to the ground?" And he's like, "Nah," and smashes it on the ground like a fuckface. And like, that's an ancient Numenorian relic that's ancient to the Numenorians. So it's been like, it's old. It's a priceless relic.
Well, and like, yeah, man, it's just it sucks. This is the kind of person that like they don't really understand consequences the way that anybody else does, because things tend to work out in their favor just randomly, I guess. No, because so who is fucking Farazan? Is that his name?
Farazan.
Yeah.
Farazan is the last king of Numenor.
Farazan is as we've learned now, as people who don't know the lore are now learning. Numenorian society was divided into two broad factions: the faithful, who were led by Elendil and Queen Miriel, who stuck to the ways of the elves that they learned from the First Age and honored the Valar and so forth. And then there were the Kingsmen, led by Farazan, who wanted to, who were jealous of the elves' immortality and wanted to purge all elven influence from their society. Things get worse after this.
Mm-hmm.
In the original lore, Farazan forced Miriel, they were cousins.
Yeah, which they are in this.
Farazan forced Miriel into marriage so he could claim the throne of Numenor.
Ugh.
And
this is less rapey.
Yeah, this is far less rapey. And other shit happens that I know they're going to go into in future seasons, so I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
But I think that this particular character, Kemen, who is a character invented for the show, my fan theory is he is going to be one of the Nazgul.
That's a fan theory I've seen a lot, that he's going to be one of the nine.
We know from
after that was part of this episode was that we know we're going to be seeing him before too long.
That 3 of the Nazgul were Numenorian.
Yeah.
We don't know what their names were. So I think he's going to be one of them.
So I have a question for you guys.
Sure. I think the only one we know he isn't is the Witch King of Agmar, because we know that's a different person.
How do you guys feel that they've done with so like the actual creation of the rings is it's an interesting thing to focus on as like a plot to me. Like I would not have expected that at all. It's not anything I would have thought would be a way to base a show around that, or at least a season of it. But like, we know what the rings are, we know what the rings do, we know all this stuff, and yet we're seeing them being made, where the people being deceived in various ways and stuff like that. Celebrimbor, definitely being deceived. Do you feel like they're pulling that off pretty well with
I do.
I forget what name Sauron's going by, but
Onatar.
Yeah, Onatar.
Yeah, I do, because we don't actually know what the Rings of Power did. That's never described.
Yeah,
we know what the One Ring did, but all that's in the fake histories that Tolkien wrote is that Sauron crafted the Rings of Power by deceiving the elves and distributed them to men and dwarves who fell under his influence. Beyond that, we don't know what they did, except that the One Ring gave him the ability to control the wearers when he put it on. That's it. So I think it's really interesting to see, see them, I guess you could say, expanding the lore or coming up with their own fan fiction. I don't care how you phrase it.
It is flushing out an area of the lore that has not had details gone into.
Well, and I actually, at first, so I kind of was before this episode, I was a little bit meh on the whole, ring creation subplot.
Sure.
Not that I didn't like it. I just was like, okay, so he's going to trick people. But then it became more complex this time because We've now got the Elven rings. They're out there.
Yeah.
And then the Dwarven rings. They're out there now. And they're having their influence and stuff. But then at that point was whenever Durin started fucking noticing his dad's acting kind of wacky. And he goes back to Celebrimbor and he's like, "Hey man, these rings are fucked up. And you can't, don't give me more rings or whatever." And Celebrimbor, was like actually confronted Anatar, who successfully, after a while, they argued for a good bit, kind of exchanging words. And basically just appealing to his ego and appealing, like, basically he's just desperate now, and he feels like he can fix whatever mistakes were done with the Dwarven ring by making 9 human rings, which is exactly what he didn't want to do in the first place. He was fucking dead set against it. And that's why I was like pretty impressed with the conversation and the way that it all played out, because I was like, okay, he did, for being the thing that he was dead set against, Celebrimbor originally, he's now charging full steam ahead, ready to do it. And then of course Anatar had that whole performance that he did. I'm not quite sure what he was doing there, but with the things going crazy in the forgery in the forge area there.
So one of the assistants had a prototype ring.
Yeah, it was hard to catch because they cut. It was a weird bit of editing, but you can, when Celebrimbor grabs the hammer that's floating in the air, he slips the ring off of her finger, and you barely notice her becoming visible because they cut away too quickly. I don't know why maybe there was something wrong with the special effects, but if you pause it, like it's like just a couple of frames, you see her appearing and stepping out of the shot. So it was the blonde who I think her name is Murdania, who
is that the one who
looks
said
like
Galadriel?
Yes, she had a prototype ring on and had become invisible. So she was having the Frodo experience, of seeing the unseen world, and the demon she described was Sauron.
Right. Yeah, she
just
saw
him. She was like,
Sauron.
"Oh my God.
She just doesn't know
I
it.
saw this thing. It was crazy." He's like, "Oh, what?"
I think he tries to convince her it's Celebrimbor's ego or something, and not like.
I can tell whoever wrote this episode has been in a relationship with a narcissist before.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why that was why it was pretty impressive, honestly, is that it really is just like a narcissist convincing someone who started out thinking, "No, this is bad, this is not good, I'm not okay, I'm not okay with this," and then by the end he's just like, "No, we have to do this shit," and that's just successful gaslighting.
Yeah, he made Celebrimbor think it was his fault.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it was. Yeah.
Like his lie, Celebrimbor's lie to the king is what tainted the creation of the Dwarven rings.
Right.
And gave him the choice. He gave Celebrimbor the choice. You can go tell the king what you did, or we can plow forward full steam ahead. And
or
Celebrimbor decided
the best thing to do is just like be more deceptive, even more, and then that'll definitely make things better.
Right, but it's important that it was Celebrimbor's choice to do it. Celebrimbor knew. He says out loud, "If I tell the king, he'll never let me create anything again."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. I said it. We know what the rings did, but like we don't know other than just being kind of like slaved to the One Ring.
And right now the Dwarven rings aren't slaved to the One Ring yet because there is no One Ring yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we do know that the Dwarven rings made the kings of Khazad-dûm more greedy.
Oh yeah, we already see that for sure.
Here is one thing a parallel I noticed between the 3 and the 1 of the 7 we've seen so far that I liked and picked up on is that Durin the 4th, I believe, is our protagonist. Durin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Durin the Younger, they call him on the show.
Durin the Younger is like his friend Elrond, the one who's like, point of order, this is fucked, right? Like something is wrong here. And it takes everyone else a while to catch up with him. And I like that symmetry that like these are the two that are like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And then
Elrond Elrond is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the other reason I think they've decided to, we haven't mentioned it on this stream yet, but the show has changed the order in which the rings are created in the lore. in the original lore, the elven rings were created last, and without the influence of Sauron, and the elves chose to make them without the influence of Sauron. And here they've reversed that and had them made first. And I think they've done that for narrative reasons, so that they can have the characters come to see the differences between these rings.
Because
or the audience will see the differences, will learn the differences through the experiences of the character they connect with.
Yeah.
Like Elrond is about to learn that the elven rings are not tainted by Sauron and are going to have different effects, because we're seeing that Galadriel could easily give up the ring if she needed to.
Right.
She did it without hesitation.
Like their power is still addictive.
Yeah. The power is extremely tempting, but it's not addictive because they can give it up freely.
Right.
Addicts always say that though, Bob. They're, I can give it up if I want to.
But she did, right? Is that she, and we know based on in Lord of the Rings, we know that Gandalf has the one that is right now worn by the shipmaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so the 3 elven rings are free of the influence of Sauron. And as the characters on the show learn what that difference means, the audience will learn it along with them.
Right.
So it was good to create the elven rings first, to have them there as a contrast.
So at what point do the elven rings become part of the kind of circuit, I suppose?
They don't.
They don't really. All that really happens is after Sauron creates the One Ring and he puts it on, the wearers of the elven rings become aware that he did it.
Right.
And they can see into his mind and he can see into theirs. But that's it.
I mean, that's
so
like Galadriel also in the future expresses the fear that if Sauron were to reclaim the One Ring, he would be powerful enough to influence the 3.
Yeah.
But that's more than he's grown powerful over time.
I sort of see this story about the creation of the rings as like a fantasy version of Oppenheimer.
A little bit.
It's all about Celebrimbor is basically creating weapons of mass destruction. And it's all about the moral dilemma of doing that and the personal ambition that drives that kind of a decision.
It's interesting because he doesn't. We're like creating the bomb is creating the bomb, right? Like it's a bomb.
Yeah.
And even before then, we knew radioactive material was dangerous. He created the rings for perfectly understandable reasons that, if true, would hurt nobody, right? It was to heal the tree in Linden so that the elves didn't have to go to the west.
Yeah.
Because Middle-earth is kind of fucked up and it could use some repair, and these are, in theory, tools that can do it. But any tool that powerful is going to cause problems.
Yeah, that's one of the main themes. One of the consistent themes in Tolkien is that power always tempts you towards evil, no matter how virtuous you are. The more power you have.
When I was younger, I didn't really understand fully the reason why like Frodo was actually influenced by the One Ring too. It's like, man, that must be powerful evil. It doesn't, and I didn't fully understand the implications of that when I was much younger. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, adults in the real world, don't seem to understand that either.
Well, I mean, I fully understand it now. Just like, thankfully we didn't have to see Samwise, get influenced by it. Anyway.
Yeah.
He did carry it long enough for the elves to allow him to go to the west at the end of his life.
Was it that, or was it just like the journey in general? I think that was what I always took from it. Just like,
no, it's because he was a ring bearer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the only reason Sam didn't succumb to the power is that he didn't wear it long enough.
He didn't have it long enough.
Or didn't carry it long enough, excuse me. That's part of the narrative thread through the Lord of the Rings, is that none of the characters in this book would have been able to freely give up the ring and throw it into Mount Doom.
Yeah.
It had to be
an act of providence.
What saved the world was that Frodo made the choice to not kill Gollum. He showed mercy to Gollum, and that ultimately led to the Deus Ex Machina in the book of Gollum just dancing a little jig and tripping and falling into the lava.
Yeah.
Because he had won the fight for the ring. In the book, Frodo and him do not wrestle.
Nope.
Frodo
Right.
loses that fight.
Bites his finger off.
Yeah, Gollum gets the ring and dances around, dances a little jig, and slips and falls into the lava, which, knowing what Tolkien's theology was, and a lot of scholarship has been gone into this, the point Tolkien was trying to make there is that only God could have destroyed the ring.
Right.
Even Sauron could not have thrown it into the fires of Mount Doom. And so the power, the narrative device of the salvation of the world was an act of mercy by Frodo, and the chain of consequences that come from that.
And that throughout the story, Frodo genuinely tries to do the right thing and be kind to everyone. Like in terms of how like he treats other hobbits, how he treats with the elves he meets at the beginning of the story. Like the chain of events based on his actions allow him to make it to that moment for that act of providence.
Yeah. Frodo is one of the three Christ figures in Lord of the Rings. Each of them represents one aspect of the Christ story, and Frodo is the one who bears the suffering of the world.
Yep.
Aragorn is the king who was promised, and Gandalf is the resurrected being.
Okay, well, let's talk about speak, friend, and enter.
They're holding the door.
I was not expecting that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mentioned it in last stream where I was when I let the lore nerd speak. When I mentioned that I was concerned about how much attention was being paid to the side quests on the show, and not enough was being devoted to the deepening ties between the dwarves and the elves. That was what I was thinking.
That's what you were thinking of.
I didn't want to give away any spoilers, but the creation of the doors was the thing that sealed the alliance between Khazad-dûm and Eregion. That's going to have some interesting consequences. Later in the
Are you
season.
still under the impression that they're not doing a good job of that?
I felt they weren't doing enough. I didn't think they were doing a bad job, but
I kind of feel like the door does that, like exactly, like it's just a symbolic. Okay, yeah, wow, they're really getting along now.
Yeah, and had they had more episodes to work with, I think we would have seen a lot of subplots of like, because one of the things we haven't seen is that there are supposed to be dwarves working in Celebrimbor's forge alongside him. So we would, if we had more episodes to work with, we probably would have seen more, subplots about friendships between elves and dwarves in that forge.
I think how he talks to that one dwarf whose name I didn't catch, but he talks to one of the dwarfs, the smith, the stonemason who made the doors, like they were friends. Like they had the way their dialogue was with each other gave the impression that these two have known each other for a very long time and are very close friends.
And you never know. We got 3 episodes left. There might be just like a quick scene where you see some working together in there, and then that's that's really
I would not be surprised if they are worked into the story as working on the 9, because it's
probably
as Eregion becomes more isolated from the rest of the elves.
Well, and Celebrimbor said we'll do everything different.
Yeah,
the process is different. So might be.
I mean, I know what's going to happen big picture. With Eregion and the dwarves. I don't want to give away too many spoilers because I think if they pull it off,
it'll be really.
It's going to be awesome. I think the production team has already publicly put out that the Siege of Eregion, the battle for Eregion, is going to cover more than one episode.
Yeah.
At least 2, possibly 3 episodes.
That's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. So a lot's going to happen between elves, dwarves, and orcs at the level of politics and at the level of battle and all
especially with Adar being like, hey, Galadriel, like we can just talk because you and I have a bone to pick with the same motherfucker.
Yeah. Although he doesn't yet know that Halbrand is Sauron.
No, he doesn't. Boy, I wish he wishes he figured that out sooner.
I mean, like he had the chance, like he didn't believe he was
met him
Sauron,
twice.
right? Like
I think he suspects. I think he suspects Halbrand is Sauron, but when he has it confirmed, he's not going to take the news well.
It'll be too late.
I mean, I'm sorry, maybe I'm misremembering what Sauron said in the first episode, but didn't he straight up say he was Sauron?
No.
Oh.
He said that he told Adar that there was a sorcerer working with Celebrimbor, who I'm not sure he said the sorcerer was Sauron. He just let Adar believe that.
Involved with Sauron, like he hinted.
Yeah. And then I love the way they're writing Sauron, and I love Charlie Vickers' performance because he never outright lies to anybody.
No. He's so honest.
He swore to serve the Lord of Mordor until his dying day.
Yeah.
He didn't say I'm going to serve Adar. Yeah. So he let Adar think that Adar was sending him, Halbrand, as a spy into Eregion to feed him information about this sorcerer. And the sorcerer is him. And I think Adar is not a dummy. I think we've seen some hints that he kind of suspects that Halbrand was lying to him about that. But
especially because it's been a minute and they've been on march for a while. So it's my spy has not reported back to me. And a bunch of elves haven't shown up to kick my teeth in yet. I think fucker's playing me.
Yeah. I'm real interested to see how Guy Ladriel and Adar interact going forward, because there are things Adar is willing to do that Galadriel will not be willing to do.
Yeah.
Even though they have the same enemy.
Adar is one of my favorite characters in this show because it's hard to pull off a villain protagonist.
Yeah.
And he very
and this show is doing it with two of them.
Yeah. He's one of two villain protagonists of this show. But they do it really well and they're playing off each other. And it's spicy.
Has nobody had anything to say, or is chat broken? What's going on here?
Chat is let me refresh. The chat's just really quiet.
Yeah, have we just been talking to ourselves the whole time?
There's 31 people watching. Chat, if you're alive.
Sound off, chat. Can you hear us? I can hear all.
Who's been enjoying the Rings of Power show?
Yeah.
What?
Maybe.
I'll say this last episode was one of the best ones so far, I think.
Yeah,
it absolutely was.
The video is still playing. Oh, Maestro's still here.
Can you hear us, Maestro?
Oh, he's right there. Where are you at? What are you watching on?
Chat noises. I just opened up a YouTube tab to.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of the best, not just one of the best episodes of this season. It's one of the best episodes of this entire show.
That's what I mean. Yeah, for sure.
So far,
really good.
And
it was a good balance. There was a few moments of action. There was, really good action. Actually, action that is that propels the plot forward quite a bit.
Yeah.
This show,
and they're starting to pay off seeds that were planted in the first season.
Yep. This is. If there is if I could sit down the Lucasfilm and the Disney Plus execs and be like, this motherfuckers is why you just renew shows for a second season, this is a master class, and set them up in one season, knock them down in the next.
You choose your show, your creators very carefully, and then let those fuckers cook, man. Have some faith in them. They might not always, they might not always win out, but you're fucking Disney, you're multi-trillionaires, you can do it. You're fine.
Yeah, you've got more money than God.
So a lot of people in chat are saying they're not actually watching the show; they're just here for
positive
fandom.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, man.
That's awesome. You rock.
Yeah, we're happy we could provide.
Yeah, if you get a chance to, if you get access to Amazon Prime from a relative or something, then I would check it out. It's unlike a lot of. I think one of the things I really appreciate about this show, especially in this episode, is how long the episodes are.
Yeah.
It is that there was a moment in this episode, and I don't quite remember which one it was because it's been a few days since I've watched the episode. There was a moment where I'm like, if this were a Disney Plus streaming show or a Netflix show, it would have ended here and been much worse for it.
Yeah.
Because I think what it was the moment when, because initially Celebrimbor was like, I'm going to go to Linden and I'm going to talk to Gilgalad and let him know something has gone awry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, boy, in a Disney Plus show, this is where they end the episode. And then it keeps going. And you get the twist of the manipulation, and the rest of the plot plays out after that moment, and you get this heart-wrenching ending. And I'm like, this is how a streaming show should be. You aren't limited in a time frame to a 46-minute episode, much less a 38-minute episode like a bunch of the Marvel shows are. Like,
well, I mean, to be fair, I think that a lot of shows have done that type of thing just because we kind of have almost like are wired by TV timings to like think of a show and feel like we can feel it whenever a show is getting to be longer than 45-50 minutes sometimes. But I mean, that was I think better for transitional state from network TV to streaming, and now we're past that. I think we should just do shows however long you want to.
I think make the episodes how long it may. Like, don't let them. Like, I would say more than, like, if you hit 90 minutes, just make a movie. But like this, like 110 minute episode, and that's like you've got 5 minutes of credits afterwards, anyways. So like,
yeah.
I
This
think
show
that
is
gives them so much time to play.
Each episode of this show is roughly 10 minutes longer, 10 to 15 minutes longer than the average episode of other shows that have the same number of episodes. So like The Acolyte, I think, did they have 8? Yeah, they had 80 episodes, just like this one does. But their episodes were like 38 to 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
And this show has an additional 10 to 15 minutes per episode, which is the equivalent of just having
another episode
or two
Okay.
in terms of its runtime.
One last thing I think really that we have to talk about. What is there just like Disa? She's just hearing some random echoes, right? Nothing really big, not a big deal down there, right?
I'm sure it's fine.
It's just not like you acting crazy. What are you doing talking about something down there? Nah, there ain't nothing down here.
Yeah, and that touches on something else I started noticing in this episode. I think one of the themes they're trying to do in this episode is women not being believed when they say things that are obviously true, because nobody's taking Disa seriously about that. People weren't listening to Galadriel, even though Galadriel fucked up, and everyone acknowledges that. But she was still right about Sauron being back,
being alive,
like she was too high off the ring to communicate that effectively.
Yeah,
like I think that's like she was right, but she was
she was too trauma driven in the first season and everyone was used to her doing that. So I think everyone else was like, she does not have good threat analysis skills and is chasing shadows and stuff. But she turned out to be right, and people aren't listening to Disa, and so forth. So that could just be something I'm noticing, but yeah.
No, I think you're right.
A lot of people, a lot of the chatter online among the lore purists is concerned about that storyline, the Disa storyline, because the Balrog that we saw in the beginning in the first season
is Durin's
Bane, and in the official timeline that Tolkien wrote, it's not supposed to be unleashed until the Third Age. But it looks like they're going to have it unleashed sometime during this show.
Well,
which I'm okay with. I mean, I don't.
As long as it's well executed, as we talked about before, it's a living, breathing document that can be changed and stuff. Maybe it's going to be like something like maybe we get to see the Balrog because I hope so. But also maybe it doesn't make the record books, so to speak.
It may also be that with the dwarves' attention-driven surface word, that it becomes an ignored problem. Because if I recall correctly, Durin's Bane enslaves a bunch of orcs to go kick it over. He doesn't do it himself.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, the Balrogs are on the same tier as the Maiar, which is what Gandalf is.
Yeah. Except
Gandalf is an Istar.
Right.
Gandalf is an Istar. Sauron is a Maiar. They're basically
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, you're right.
Morgoth I
Is a
think
Valar. Or was.
is a Valar. Yes,
Yeah.
is one of the Valar, which are like the archangels, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what all the orders and hierarchies of angels are, but each of them is represented in Tolkien's cosmology by Valar, Maiar, Istar, and so forth. But the Balrogs are Maiars, so they're higher on the hierarchy than the Istar, who would be Gandalf, Saruman, Radagast, and the two blue wizards.
Yep. Whoever the fuck they are.
Yeah, they were given multiple names as well, so I don't know what the official name of each of them is. But
Frank and Bob, you're one of the
What makes one evil and one not? What happens there that makes that distinction?
Like in some version, because Tolkien never really made up his mind on what they were. Like in some versions, they're evil sorcerers from the east. In some version, they're like leading anti-Sauron dissidents in the east. They never get names. They never show up. They're just like present. And even Radagast, for the most part, like is just present. Like I don't think he's.
What about a Balrog though? How does that become?
They sided with, so they're like the fallen angels who sided with Lucifer, basically.
Yeah.
That's Morgoth was Lucifer, more or less, and he wanted to basically have his own creation. The story is that the creation was sung into existence, and during that song, Morgoth introduced discordance.
Mm-hmm.
Which is reflected, I think, in the theme of the show.
Yeah,
there's a part in the opening sequence of the show's score where the tune drops into minor, and I think that's supposed to represent Morgoth introducing discordance into the song.
That actually that is kind of I've been wanting to say this. Fucking Bear McCreary, man. Holy shit.
Good Lord. Oh my God.
The score for this show is amazing.
This guy has basically scored all of the best TV like in the last 20 years almost. It's fucking crazy.
And the best video games too. Man, he did God of War, right?
Oh, I did not know that.
I forget which other games he's done, but he's done all of the best video game scores were done by Bear McCreary. That's where he got his start, I think. And he's done some movies and stuff too. But he's like the next John Williams. He's the next Howard Shore. And I should point out the theme to Rings of Power was not written by Bear McCreary. The one that plays over the opening credits.
Oh,
I want to say Howard Shore. I forget the name, but it's whoever.
It says music.
It's whoever
by,
did.
Okay. Yeah.
It's whoever did the music for the Peter Jackson movies.
Oh.
Did the opening credits theme for Rings of Power, but all of the other music is done by Bear McCreary.
It fucking kills it.
Yeah, and that elevates everything in the show. The show's already awesome, but the music really elevates everything that's happening.
There you go.
Yes.
So he actually has a comic book out, by the way, because I saw whenever I wanted to
everybody has a comic book out. Oh my god.
Well, but like whenever what's his nuts said he was doing an AI comic thing or whatever. Bear McCreary posted about that, and he said, look, whenever I wanted to make a comic book, I hired people that know how to make comic books, and he basically was just shitting all over Kaepernick for the way that he did things. But the thing is, he's also got he's got music that goes with his comic book, which is fucking cool.
That's right.
That's awesome. And I've been downloading the score of every episode of Rings of Power as it's released because they release at the same.
Oh yeah, he does Foundation. Hell yeah.
Oh man, that explains a lot.
So the themes are from him. The score is by Sparks and Shadows. All right. Galaxy's Edge, Walking Dead. I mean, yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's
BSG.
God knows. Yeah, that's where I first discovered him was BSG. Just like, man. All right.
Yeah,
sorry.
he's brilliant, and I've loved everything I've ever heard by him.
Yeah, I don't think
I appreciate
he's done anything bad.
Yeah, and I appreciate the use of music in this show so much, not just as the score, but it's also music is part of. Is it called diegetic when it's part of the in universe?
Yes.
I have no idea. Yeah, I'm not a music guy.
There's a film term. I think it's called diegesis, in which the music is part of the in universe experience of the characters in the story. So, like when the harfoots are singing the walking song, for instance.
Oh, sure.
That's something we're hearing as the audience, put to music, but it's also something that's part of their experience. And I like how in the second season, we've seen that song actually has practical uses.
Mm-hmm.
It was being sung as a map for them to remember. And we also saw King Gilgalad basically singing a funeral dirge for the tree.
Yep.
And music, because that's a huge part of Tolkien's world building as well. It's so much of it was done through poetry and song. And this show is doing the same thing.
Which makes sense for a huge fucking language nerd.
Yeah.
So, that's exactly what it is. It's diegetic, occurring within the context of the story and able to be heard by the characters. So, like, another good example would be Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah.
I mean, not always, but a lot of times it's diegetic. It's music that they're listening to or whatever.
That's rad.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
The show. And so we've got, 3 episodes left this season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it looks like, I think all 3 of them are going to center around the Siege of Eregion. It'll start next episode. Shit will really hit the fan in episode 7, and then episode 8 will be.
And then we'll resolve it. So what do we think? Got any predictions? I'm not you, Bob, because I know you probably know exactly what's going to happen. But if there's anything that you don't know is going to happen, but you kind of wonder or think it might happen, is there anything that you?
Well, I think that the death of the Landil tells us that none of the non-canon characters are safe. And
they're
a lot of the
hyper expendable.
Whoa, that was a loud motorcycle. But a lot of the non-canon characters in this show are some of the best characters in this show, like RDER and Adar in particular are really cool characters, and I am no longer certain they will survive this season. So I know what's going to happen big picture wise in terms of like the geopolitics and the march of history and stuff. But when it comes to the fates of individual characters whose names don't appear in the lore that I really like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well,
so
let me
I'm
based on like narrative, understanding narrative, right? It was like, Adar could do something like very heroic.
Possibly.
I think he might, I think he will go out like a champ.
Saving Galadriel or something.
I don't think he will save Galadriel. I think he would, if he has a heroic end, he would do something that's heroic from the point of view of the orcs.
Yeah.
Because the show has already given us sympathy for the orcs, and he'll see something happening that, at least from their point of view, is incredibly cruel and desperate, and he'll sacrifice himself to save them.
So
because his main loyalty is to them.
Is to them, right? Because he takes his title of Adar very seriously. Like, he very much sees himself as a paternal figure to the orcs.
Yeah.
And he genuinely cares about their well-being. It's just that the orcs are kind of fucked up.
What other characters are originally non-lore?
So Theo is not non-canon. Kemen, that fucking guy. This fucking guy Kemen is not.
Guy is not. Yeah, I think he's gonna die. I think he dies before.
No, I think he'll become one of the Nazgul.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Eardian, the daughter of Elendil, is not canon. In canon, he only had 2 sons: Anarion, who was mentioned in season 1 as being off at sea somewhere, and Isildur is his son. So the sister is a new character. Let's see. RDER is a non-canon character. They killed Bronwyn off screen, for which I still haven't forgiven.
Oh yeah, the fridging. The fridging.
Yeah, Theo.
I mean, we haven't even
girl.
Seen, what's his nuts doing much this season. So
yeah, Estrid, the love interest they just introduced for Isildur, is a non-canon character.
I think she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's kind of weird that like we just had an episode that was really centered around Anatar and Celebrimbor, and had a good bit to do with Numenor as well. So, but the next 3 episodes you think are going to be around Numenor? What are we just not going to get
around
more?
Eregion.
They're going to be around Eregion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Which is where Celebrimbor is.
This might have been the climax for the Numenor story this season. We'll probably see a little more of it, but I think the big thing has happened there for this season. Because I think what's going to happen is that Dude's daughter is going to, because obviously he has men who are loyal to him. I think instead of them being executed, she is going to convince Farazan to exile them to Middle Earth.
Yeah, maybe. And I think she's also, they made her an architect for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's going to be involved in the building of a certain temple in a future season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think ultimately she is going to, because I really liked how they wrote the scene between her and Elendil, where it was clear they were on different sides of this, but neither of them
They don't hate each other.
disowned the other person. Right. So they obviously still love each other and are torn in their loyalties. And I think you're right. She'll be the voice of reason, quote unquote, that,
or at least sympathy.
That leads to the exile of the faithful.
Because those will go on to, spoilers for Lord of the Rings. They end up in what becomes Gondor.
Yeah, and Rohan as well.
Rohan and
Arnor.
and
Arnor. Yeah. Let's see. And Nori and Poppy are non-canon characters as well.
Well, yeah.
So I think Nori's obviously going to survive till the end, but I'm not sure about Poppy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious how that story is going to play out. Because I think we're going to get one more episode, like episodes worth of content. It might be spread out over 2 episodes, but I think we are going to get a sizable wrap up for that story, where the Stranger and the Sorcerer of Rune are going to have a hoedown.
Yeah, the showrunners have said that the Stranger's identity will be revealed this season.
Okay.
And they're telegraphing that it's Gandalf,
which means,
and I'm sort of coming around to it probably is Gandalf. Last week I was
like once you said that, I started thinking about it, like, well, if you might be right, because like, why wouldn't they just go ahead and kind of confirm that to some degree? Why would they wait for him to? The only thing I can't think is my name, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, his given name was not Gandalf. That was a name given to him.
That's true.
I think by the hobbits.
By humans or hobbits?
Oh, no, yeah, by humans. Yeah, by the people of it was either Gondor or Rohan. I forget which. But his name that he went by was Olorin. So I think last week I thought he was Saruman. This week I think he's probably Gandalf, because this story is about the Rings of Power, and one of the Elven Rings of Power is given to Gandalf by Círdan, the shipwright. So why have a wizard in the show about the Rings of Power who isn't the wizard who ends up with one of the Elven Rings of Power?
I wonder if that ever plays, like, because we don't really know exactly the whole details of what drove Saruman. Like, we know the broad strokes, we don't know like the intricate personal details. I wonder if, because like Saruman is said to be an expert in like ring lore, in Lord of the Rings, that's why Gandalf goes to talk to him. I wonder if part of his reason for falling is that here's the world's biggest ring lore nerd in Middle Earth, and his coworker has a ring of power and he does not.
Yeah, that could be. So anyway, I think the Stranger is Gandalf, and he probably will not be called Gandalf.
No.
Like Tom Bombadil is going to either reveal his name to him somehow or catalyze him remembering his name. And when his name is spoken, it won't be Gandalf.
No.
He will then get named Gandalf by the Harfoots.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Okay.
Probably by the Harfoots or the humans.
Yeah. But they're going to make it clear.
Yeah. I imagine the Harfoots will call him by his given name just because he will introduce himself as that.
Yeah.
And then he will earn the epithet Gandalf later on at some point in a future season.
But it will be clear to the audience that, yes, this is Gandalf, although he's not going by that name right now.
Right.
Well, I mean, I thought it was clear in the freaking finale when he's like, what was it? There was like something
He says a Gandalf line.
Yeah, very Gandalf.
He says many Gandalf lines. Always follow your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the one that he said to Nori at the end of the first season.
Yeah, he was very much giving Gandalf the whole time, but there's some ways where it doesn't really make sense for him to be Gandalf, and others where it does make sense. So I think it was clever for the first season, but they really need to get on with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was about to say, if they didn't reveal what the deal this season, then there better be some significantly wild reason why.
I think one thing I like about them giving it an extra season to sort of cook on who he is something I like about what it says about his power is that his power is uncontrollable. Not that he so in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf, when he loses his staff, doesn't use any magic. And that's a weird, right? And I like how this show is the reason why that is because his power is so great that he uses the staff as a limiter.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't
basically a channeling thing that it's a governor form.
Right. And he's trying to summon the storm and it starts to work. And then the shepherd's crook falls apart and the storm goes out of control.
And goes crazy. Yeah. And then he almost kills, his companions, which I'm sure was a traumatic thing that would make you want to be more careful.
Well, I think the first thing he asks Tom is, have you seen these two? I'm looking for my friends.
Yeah. Because I kind of blew them away.
I may have blown them away.
Yeah. I'm just curious how they're going to handle the name reveal in a way that doesn't seem ham-fisted.
Yeah. You're talking about Star Trek in the Darkness is what you're talking about whenever you say something like that.
It will not be that bad. It cannot possibly be that bad.
My name is Khan.
I would have agreed with you, Morgan, until they fridged Bronwyn.
Oh, you know what? I sit corrected.
I know they're capable of bad writing, of truly bad writing now.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, there was an example apparently of actual bad writing in this episode. Yeah, I showed you guys. You saw it.
Yeah.
It was right at the beginning of the episode too.
I don't remember.
As you know line.
As you know, as you can see, as you can see,
right?
What was his name? I forget that dwarf's name. Something with
Narvi.
Narvi, that's what it was. He tells Durin, the elder, he's like, as you can see, we've blah 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 talking about the mines, and I saw somebody posted that oh, look at this is just such a well-known don't do this in writing kind of thing, and I was like, really? And I look it up and oh, it actually is. That's true.
It happens all the time in TV. It happens all the time in TV.
I mean, if you're looking for that and you're kind of poring over episodes to kind of oh, look, bad writing, well, then you're probably, even if that is technically an example of that type of thing, in most cases, these are not rules that are hard rules. They can be bent, they can be broken depending on how they're done.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for it like that, then you're probably going to be just uncharitable to anything.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't break the rules because the rules are really more just suggestions.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, in reality, people do say that phrase. So if you're trying to write realistic, these two rules are incongruent. You can't say I like characters that speak, like real people do, but never say as you can see, because people say that.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. It's contextual.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is that we don't really know that character Narvi very well. That could just be the way that character talks.
Right.
But we haven't gotten to know him, so we don't really know.
I can tell he's torn between the Durins. That's all I really know about him. His character.
Yeah. And another good example, and this is worse. When you first told us about that, I said it's that happened.
Yeah. So
is that
which was used in
a thing, or is that something that just became a
I don't know how that became a thing, but it was used in an episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the musical episode. And when it happened, I went, oh my God, they did not do that.
Why is this here?
Yeah, but even in that episode,
it
was. I think it was done with a wink, because even in that episode, it made sense because that is that whole episode was campy. So
but
in this context,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
In this context, I think within the context of the scene that we saw, that character saying, as you can see, X made sense because the viewer
doesn't
know that.
So
we can't actually see that.
Maestro, what it is like, it generally speaking, if you're writing a script, and with meaning you're writing for something that's going to be presented on in video format, you shouldn't have to say what you're showing, like telling the audience literally, as you can see. It's just a weird kind of like I guess maybe immersion breaking thing sometimes.
Yeah. So it's more an issue in written stories where you should be using your narration to set the scene rather than a character in the story going, here is the, your character should be talking about the plot, not the scene.
Right. But in this
your
case,
character shouldn't be aware of the scene. They should be advancing the plot. In a TV show, it's different because it's visual. And sometimes you need someone to explain the plot. Like, it is bad writing, but also, like, all of Star Trek is full of, as you can see, or as you know. Like, Star Trek is lousy with as you know.
Yeah. And in this scene, it made sense because the reason as you can see is considered bad writing in most cases in television is that when a character says that, they're referring to something on screen that is already obvious to the viewer if they're paying attention. And in this scene, it's not obvious what's going on because dwarves are always hitting the walls with
We've seen a lot of dwarves hitting walls. That's not
Plus the angle of the camera is not pointing at the thing he's talking about. Like, we're kind of looking at them instead. The wall is over to the side.
Yeah. So it could have been handled better. It was clunky writing. I wouldn't say it was outright bad.
That's really what it is, because bad doesn't apply really.
I would call that sort of writing inefficient writing.
Yeah.
Just because, like, but in this scene, because it's a person, an authority figure has arrived here to receive a report. This person has arrived wanting to know what's going on, and so there is a person explaining to him what is going on. So it does make sense, but it is one of those reality isn't realistic things. Or, like, if my boss walked in and asked me to take him a tour of somewhere and explain to him what's going on, I would probably do it exactly like that character did in the show. But I'm not a character in a show, except this show.
Yeah, I referred to it in the Discord as a variation on the Tiffany problem, which I was surprised to learn that y'all didn't know what that was.
I didn't know what it was.
But it's a convention in writing that, broadly defined, would be something that is actually realistic or accurate, but because of social conventions feels anachronistic to an audience.
Yeah.
And the reason it's called the Tiffany problem is because the name Tiffany in the English language actually dates back to medieval England.
But it
arose
sounds
out
like
of
a modern
Think of it as
name.
like a 90s Valley Girl or something like that. Is what I
Right.
tend to-
So somebody writing a historical fiction or a fantasy based on that period of time who included a character named Tiffany would be historically accurate, but modern audiences would think it was weird. Just because of the modern associations that name has.
It reminds me of something I've talked about in, like, fantasy role-playing game groups where, like, people will complain about a fantasy system that has guns but has halberds. It's like, well, if it has halberds, it can have guns. Those are historically congruent things. Guns are slightly older than halberds.
Yeah, full plate mail, as as fantasy role-playing game people understand it visually, didn't exist until after the invention of guns. But we all think it happened before.
Right.
Because of conventions of storytelling that we've inherited over the years.
And
so as you can see,
there's not a lot of heroic tales of a guy shooting someone with a gun until we get to, like, the 18th century. Like, when you get like Napoleonic Wars and the American Revolution. That's sort of when guns start to become mythologized. But before that, not really.
Yeah. So the use of "as you can see" is like that. It's something that people really do say, and that would have valid uses in actual conversations. But somehow, TV writing just adopted the convention that it's bad writing, so they never do it.
Yeah, I think they adopted it from written stories, where where most writing conventions are that you use your narration to set your scene, and you use your characters to advance the plot. And if someone is giving an "as you can see" speech, they're doing the wrong thing with the wrong tool.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
another Chud talking point debunked. Trollkins.
What's funny is I didn't even see a Chud saying that necessarily. I just happened to see it in my Reddit scrolling in the Millions of Power subreddit too.
Like, it's one of those things that I think it's an actual criticism, and we can discuss how valid or not valid it is, but I think it's worth discussing because we're talking about like the history of how we tell stories and writing conventions.
Well, and then also it's worth discussing because even though it is a somewhat legitimate thing to even discuss, unlike most Chud complaints, Chuds very well could and probably are somewhere using this as an example.
I haven't seen it.
I assumed that was what was happening because I'm so used to the complaint of so-called bad writing being thrown out by Chuds, and
somehow they missed
people
the
who think
one
that way.
instance of bad writing.
Yeah, they've kind of poisoned the well when it comes to criticizing shows like Rings of Power or a Star Wars TV show, because any legitimate criticism that could be put forward that isn't necessarily a deal breaker for watching the show just gets dismissed because most of the people who complain about bad writing are just doing it in bad faith.
Right. And like when we have an actual instance of something that you could call bad writing or matches the convention of what has been called bad writing, Chuds aren't interested in having a discussion about the nuances of script writing versus novel writing, like us fucking nerds are. Like,
yes,
I'm sure Bob and I could talk about this topic for another hour and drive Dane insane.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
As you
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. You guys want to talk for another hour? I'll let you go. But
nah, we're good.
Alrighty. That's the key, right? Ask them to give an example of what they think is bad writing. Explain. And this is what we were talking about. Bob, you were talking about it with you, in fact. And I did a whole video on this stuff, man. I think I need to cover it again, like intentionally, because that was just really live stream, kind of me and Little Movie Perp talking about it, looking at what other people say about it, which is a valid thing. But I think I have stuff to write about these concepts now, 2 years later.
Wow.
I should probably get on that. But
yeah, I think it can be an effective tactic. I'll give this to the audience. It's a gift. It can be an effective tactic when dealing with, maybe not necessarily with the Chud content creators themselves, but when their audience shows up in your feed, calling something you like bad writing or something, ask them to explain how is it bad writing,
right? And
give them a reference point to an actual tome on writing. Like my example is always Save the Cat, which is a famous screenwriting book that goes through the nuts and bolts of writing a screenplay, and ask them, show me with reference to this source how this is bad writing.
Well, that's why they don't like. That's why they don't want to come on and have a conversation on streams. That's why they want to just say things in chat and replies and stuff, and not any further, because they don't have to be accountable for their bullshit. If you're having to answer verbally and people are like listening to you, then you got to have something. You say something, man. Defend this shit. But they can't. They know they can't.
And this is something that people who make 6-hour stream videos complaining about bad writing ought to be able to do.
Well, let's just make sure everybody knows that this is Bob of the old ways saying this right now.
That's right.
Bring him your worst.
Mauler. Say his name 3 times and he appears.
Oh God, fucking Beetlejuice.
Or people like that. People who devote 6 hours of stream time complaining about bad writing and never once refer to the craft of writing as it's defined in books like Save the Cat or the Screenwriter's Bible or any of those things where they can talk about the nuts and bolts, are just like giving away the game. The longer the content and the more they complain about bad writing without being specific, the less they actually know.
Yeah, it shouldn't take you that long to say what you don't like about things unless you're literally, just the concept of every frame of pause. I was talking to my girlfriend about this earlier. It's like, that's not how movies are watched, dipshit.
Yeah.
That's literally the opposite of what a movie does. You're not supposed to watch one frame, because that's why they exist, is so that multiple frames can play in rapid succession, creating a moving picture.
Yes. movies are composed of scenes, not frames.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
I
this
hate
one
that they chose
right here,
Nope.
actually.
Ang Lee went for something I think he failed kind of miserably. But like the three main actors, I thought did pretty well, especially
Yeah.
Sam Elliott. Jennifer Connelly was a good Betty Ross, and I thought Eric Bana was underrated as Bruce Banner.
I want to watch Hulk punch that dog in the dick again.
True.
Because he does. He punches that Hulk dog right in the dick.
Oh, nuts.
And I also got to say, I hate that they chose the acronym EFAP for every frame a pause, because the first time I encountered that acronym, there was a series of really great film criticism videos called Every Frame a Painting.
That's where they got it from. They
Yeah.
Oh,
literally
they're fucking rip-off artists.
They're not even original enough to have their own name, right? Because you know why?
Because they're fascists.
Damn, son. I mean, you're not wrong, but damn.
That's a
son.
hot take there. Hey, what's Mahler doing here?
Unfortunately, don't have that one in this deck here.
Yeah, because we're not really a Mahler centric. We don't really talk about them that much.
Although I do have this.
I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice.
FAP does mean masturbating, Mark.
Right.
True.
Which is why this stream was all about Guy Ladriel.
Mm-hmm.
So
But yeah, I just remember when we did the Mary Sue episode,
Yeah.
and we got them in like the comment section being like, "What are you just knocking off of EFAP?" And I'm like, I don't even know who that is.
They're so. I haven't gone to look and to see what. Oh, God damn it, baby. Gordy's being noisy. I haven't gone to see what anybody said. I think I've gotten some notifications on it on Reddit, but I left kind of an epic comment. Actually, can I share that with you guys? Can I share it with you?
Please do.
Sure.
Yes. I love epic
a pretty epic comment in their subreddit the other day, under a post where, yeah, see if I can find this. First of all, just a couple of little fun things here before we go.
Sure.
So apparently, spoiler alert for the new Venom movie.
Okay.
Apparently, Null is in the movie,
That's
which
what I've
nobody saw coming, including the creators
The
of Null.
literal writers, yeah. I hope we
Wow.
talk about this on your Wednesday show, yeah.
And this was their response on Twitter. The two guys that created Null. There's that. That's fine.
And yes, Sony, if you're listening, you should give these guys money.
Yes, especially Donnie Cates, but I mean also Ryan Stegman. But you know, Donnie Cates, man, he's had a rough go of it, and he doesn't even remember creating the character. So I don't know if that's true, but he did make the joke. I think maybe, I don't know. He lost a lot of his memory
He
after
lost
his
a lot of
accident.
memory from the accident, yeah.
He said he lost like memory from like the last several years. He said, he said the coolest thing about this is just like getting to read stuff that you apparently wrote, but you don't remember writing. It's fucking great.
Wow.
I know that feeling.
Silver
No, I
lining.
cringe because I'm not a good writer, unlike Donnie Cates. I have seen things young me wrote that I don't remember, and I'm like, oh gods, I'm kind of glad I don't remember this kid because seems like kind of a twerp.
Me too. I was reading something I wrote years ago that actually won an award in a contest I entered, and reading it now, I'm like, what? How the fuck did this win an award? Good Lord, this is awful.
Oh, so this is interesting. So the thing that I actually commented on was about Lord of the Rings, and it was about Jessie Gender.
Oh no!
Something she had
Oh,
said.
no.
It's
I know
not
what this is.
super awful. It's not super awful. But
Has she been? I haven't followed her for a while. Has she been doing content about Rings of Power?
Yeah.
well, let's do the. I mean, she covers Rings of Power, but like, so she said.
This is the offending tweet, as it were.
Apparently, it was about this is actually a response to a critical drinker thing, or something. So.
Sure.
Yeah, because no one ever shipped anyone ever in Lord of the Rings before. Anyways, here's two boys just being straight. And then, Vera dipshit here who needs to learn how to wear glasses properly. Just, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, all this stuff may be true, but do you think some of those dudes were not fucking each other? Because they were, in
Yeah.
World War One. It's
And
like,
also,
I
actually made a video about this on my channel years ago when I was much worse at making videos than I am right now, if you can believe that. About this very this very subject because it was in the discourse at the time. And if you are someone who wants to see deep, intimate, emotional, intimate relationships between cisgendered straight men treated with respect, then homophobia is your enemy.
Yes. True.
And you should not be, when you see jokes like that, because that's obviously a joke by Jesse Gender.
Yeah.
Although people do, fans do ship Sam and
Yeah,
Frodo, but
it's a joke because this ship is as old as dirt.
And also, even if it was not definitely, I don't think it was written that way. I don't think it was meant to be that at all. But like, if you do get that read from it, that's okay too.
That's okay too.
Yes, there's a really fascinating article out there that I reference in my ancient video about queer readings of Lord of the Rings and how Tolkien almost certainly would have been aware of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he, number one, he served in World War I in the trenches, and
yeah,
he had to have been well aware that this kind of thing was going on.
Yeah.
And number two, he was supportive of gay writers in his circle and gave them good reviews and tried to increase their visibility. So
are you telling me Tolkien was an ally?
I don't, that's not for me to decide.
As close to one as probably there was back then. You know? I mean, more so than Lovecraft. We can say that for sure.
That's a low bar. That's damning him with faint praise.
But yeah,
I mean, like,
so when someone like Vera Dark comes to try and defend positive portrayals of physical intimacy between straight men, she should not be attacking queer people who are shipping these relationships.
No.
She should be an ally with them and recognize that the enemy is homophobia.
Maybe she just can't see it very well because her glasses aren't on right.
But like, yeah, and like, again, this is like, she claims to be some kind of like fan, like some true fan TM bullshit, and like, man, like, even if your introduction to Lord of the Rings was the movies, that means you got into Lord of the Rings from that. That means you knew about the shipping between these two for 20 years now.
Right. And if you actually read the book, which I know Vera Dark probably hasn't, you can see why this ship became a thing, because the way Tolkien describes physical male intimacy in that book is way more physical and way more intimate than what we saw in the movies.
Yeah.
And it's downright, dripping with gayness in the movies. But like, no. So, and then right here, like where the way she phrases this, they died in another man's arms because they had no one else. That's not why. It's because they wanted, I mean, that's who they would want to be holding them when they died. Not because they just, I guess you'll do.
Right. And like when you're dying, when you're at the end, that someone is there for you is what matters to you in those last moments before you cease to be.
And someone that you have deep, intimate bonds with, which is what part of what Tolkien was writing about.
Right.
One of the themes in his book was the intimacy forged between men in times of war, cisgendered.
Now let's zoom out and see some real stupid shit.
Oh no.
Okay.
It gets dumber.
So someone posted, do you ever notice how the Twitter mob always act like the only ones who oppose their ideology are straight white men, ignoring the many people who aren't white or male? As if that really even addresses this at all?
No, the Twitter mob is Nazis, 1. 2, the people who oppose Jesse Gender are homophobes and transphobes.
Yes.
Being straight, white, and male has nothing to do with that. Just being a weak-ass homophobe is what has to do with it. Sorry.
Well, it does correlate with being a straight, cisgendered man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap there.
There's some overlap.
But it's not a necessary cause.
No.
Yeah.
So I said, very friendly, like, I do notice how the Mahler cult is no different than neurotics or the quartering cults, which are no different from the GOP/MAGA cult. I have noticed that. Have you noticed you've allowed right-wing disinfo and outraged farmers to herd you into an echo chamber so closed off from reality that you think the Twitter mob is something significant? Do you know how few people even use Twitter? Go outside. Find a hobby besides shutting off your brain and letting a wall-eyed dunce and his psycho dog lover sycophant fill you full of the most asinine stream of consciousness, the illiterate takes on movies. I don't care if you like movies I do or not. I don't care if you agree with me politically. I'm telling you that you're some of the most foolish people on the internet, and some of you will eventually wake up and realize that you've wasted time on a name drivel because you're desperate to belong to a community, but settled for a hive mind instead. I may think you're silly, but I also think this. I'll also say this. You deserve better.
So here's a fun fact for all of
Was that your epic comment?
Yeah, that's mine.
Just traditional.
You just outed
now you've
yourself as
outed
that user.
your secret account on the EFAP.
They already knew. They already knew. Because it's like, you can go look at my account. Just look at my picture right there. That's me.
I know. I saw the picture as you, but I wanted to like, oh no, you've outed yourself because
I haven't figured out how to change my name. The traditional. I haven't tried that hard either. But whatever.
So here's a fun fact, because we give Twitter a lot of attention in the media because it used to be a place that the media existed. Like our traditional media spent a lot of time on Twitter because it was a good way to get clicks onto their stories on their websites. That's why Twitter kind of took off, was the presence of media and experts. But Twitter isn't even like the top 10 most popular social media websites in the world. Like, so it doesn't breach the top 10.
Mm-hmm. I think it was, I forget what I saw some numbers at one point. I could look it up, but like, it's a like a sobering number when you see, I mean, this is before the Elon version anyway.
Even before the Elon thing and after the Elon thing, it has shrunk.
And when you realize, oh, that many people have had that much sway over everything, essentially, that's crazy. And it literally is crazy. It's insane that we've allowed that to happen.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I think Facebook and Instagram are both bigger, right?
Yeah.
But if Elon manages to kill this fucking company, then that'll be, look, you know, hey, accidental hero, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
According to the source I found, the top 5 are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Reddit.
Exactly. You'll get Fandom Wire articles. I mean, everybody kind of does it, but I mean, like, I like to think that some of the better publications aren't doing it as much anymore because nobody worth a shit's on there. But yeah, man, this. And it's like, I mean, look, literally Richard Meyer, who, although he has turned half a corner and is now making some pretty based content, at least based on the titles of it that I've seen, against the fandom menace chuds. Keep it up, Richard. Good job. He's built his whole entire YouTube channel off of basically, before this turn, I suppose, finding a tweet of some fucking lefty or something with like hardly any followers, nobody knows who it is, and just like plastering that on his screen and then recording himself going off on a rant about SJWs and saying, look, this is just, you know, it's proof of this or whatever. And it's like the number of people that just unquestioningly swallow that kind of content, it's not good.
No.
But I do have I'm gonna go ahead and show this libertarian reel on the way out the door here.
All right.
I mean, you don't have to stay for it, but the fans demand it. You guys have seen it.
The fans, it's true. We had the fans demand it. We want to give the fans what they want.
They've been emailing me this whole time. They didn't want to upset you guys, but like
that's why chat's been so quiet, is because they were emailing. I see chat. I see that what you feel about my desire to keep libertarian trash off of this austere, very serious channel.
But actually, so before that though,
this is the time of the episode we would like to remind you to go to vote.org if you are a citizen of the United States and make sure you are registered to vote in your state. Right now, voter rolls are being purged across the country. It doesn't hurt to double check to make sure that you're registered to vote for this upcoming presidential election and every other race on the ballot.
There you go.
Word.
Who said that? They're really cool. I like them.
They seem pretty cool though. I like them. They're definitely cooler than these libertarians in this cringe compilation. Guys, hit the freaking like and subscribe, and head over to Bob with the Old Ways if you're not. He's linked in the thingy. And
check out patreon.com/actualfandom for more.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if anybody becomes a patron now that's above the first tier, you're going to take me over $100 a month.
Woo!
So come on, do it. No. Yeah. Let's see. Praise Gordy. Exactly.
Praise Gordy.
All right, guys. We will see you on Wednesday I think, yeah, Wednesday we're going to be doing. I think I've gotten confirmation that Turf Nation will be here this week. He's going to grace his presence. Yeah, and here's this.
Microphone 1.
I would like to ask the body to consider that the Libertarian Party acquire a mascot. And I would like to propose Dobby from the Harry Potter series, who in the 7th book says, Dobby has no master. Dobby is a free elf, and Dobby has come to save Harry Potter and his friends.
All right. Hey, look. Libertarians helping somebody. If you want to go up and thank Dr. Feldman personally for helping out, he's right there, right behind Alabama.
Governor Johnson, does global warming or climate change pose a threat to the planet?
I'm not smart enough to say whether or not global warming is man-made. Certainly there is climate change that is occurring. Does that have to do with the sun and the relationship of the earth? I know that Harrison Schmitt, who walked on the moon and was senator from New Mexico, he really questions whether global warming takes place or not.
But we will.
Welcome to the FAP. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her.